Defending the Republic from enemies, foreign and domestic. It's Alex Jones.
What a way to kick off 2018's global transmission. Wow. Another year behind us as we march into the future. I'm your host, Alex Jones. We're going to be here for the next 4 hours. And, of course, we're going to have open phones. We have Dr. Steve Pieczenik joining us on the revolution happening in Iran that is getting no backing, basically, other than the president verbally backing it. It's a real revolution over there. Of course, Obama has been helping keep the mullahs in power, even though they're very, very unpopular, even in internal polls. So we'll look at that revolution coming up towards the third hour. In the meantime, there are a lot of big blaring issues that it seems really only this broadcast has realized that are so huge and that need to get out there. And so I want to cover a few of those today, as well as all the massive, very important breaking news. Number one, Russiagate, the wheels have come off on that, and they're trying to kind of creep away now. CNN, The Nation, and others are now publishing articles pointing out that it is a Democrat cabal at the FBI that cooked up this fake dossier. But what they're not hitting on is that multiple members of the Justice Department over the investigation and the FBI all gave money to their husbands and wives in government contracts. In some cases, millions of dollars. In the case of Orr, from the Justice Department over the whole in Russia investigation to his wife at Fusion GPS, who ran the program and was only hired for the program. That on the surface looks like classic fraud. I mean, can somebody at the Justice Department give a couple $1 million to their wife? So it's simply amazing, ladies and gentlemen, but that's all coming out. Now, the other even bigger one I'm going to cover when we come back from break in more detail, because Roger Stone's talked about this. I've looked at how Trump's businesses are set up, and so on the surface, he's probably only worth a couple $1 billion of liquid cash. But when it comes to buildings and infrastructure and things he owns, it's probably 30, 40 billion. But Trump knows that that'll make it look like he's not successful in the big grouping of other billionaires. And that's why he doesn't release his tax returns. They've been released in the past. That's exactly what they show. The last time was, 10 years ago. But if you look at the type of business he has, then you understand why he wants an America First policy. He's about actual infrastructure, actual property, actual service-based economy. And to have that, you've got to have a good industrial-based society, a wealthy society. So Trump does well off of Americans doing well. He does well off of prosperity. He's not a globalist that wants vertical integration and to have a post-industrial world with the mass of people poor. But I wish he would release his tax returns now, not just federally, but at a state-by-state basis. In fact, I would advise the president, people need to get him this message. I know he has people that monitor the broadcast and give him a synopsis. He needs to release, say, his New York state returns or his New Jersey returns or something like that, state returns, to show the amounts. I'll guarantee you he's paying hundreds of millions of dollars in property tax in those states that he then gets to write off federally. So when Trump got Congress to kill the giant property tax write-offs and state income tax write-offs, it puts pressures on the blue states to lower those taxes, to stop the ballooning prices that hurt poor people, and it gets more money into the federal government to pay down deficits. It's a very bold move. In fact, it raises taxes on the rich. I wouldn't call myself rich, but nouveau riche. I got to fund the operation. I've got some property, things like that. It raised taxes on me. The Trump tax plan raised taxes, okay? Because my property tax is more than $10,000. It only cut my income tax by, two percentage points. I mean, my accountant looked at it and he said, no, your taxes have gone up. So did his. He was glad, though. It's actually about the country. The point is that Trump just raised taxes on himself, hundreds of millions of dollars, putting the country ahead of his own interests. That's presidential. We just kicked off the first global transmission of the InfoWar in 2018 with yours truly, Alex Jones. David Knight, of course, kicked it all off this morning at 8 a.m. Central with the real news. And we've got Owen Schroyer coming up live at 3 o'clock Central with the War Room. Okay, where to begin? Wow. Definitely we saw the trend in 2017. But for every action, there's an opposite and equal reaction. We saw the trend of pedophilia coming out of the closet, pedophilia being promoted openly, sexualization of children being promoted everywhere, Salon magazine, you name it, New York Times. It's incredible. But you saw the reaction, massive pedophile rings being arrested, children being freed, women being freed, Trump signing an executive order going after child traffickers and human trafficking and cutting off their money. And he declared a civil emergency to do that, a form of martial law, not economy-wide martial law, not martial law over the Bill of Rights Constitution, which I would oppose, but an emergency against these foreign foundations that are coming into the U.S. tax-exempt and controlling things. That's what George Soros does in Russia, in Hungary, in Ukraine, in Germany, in France, in Italy, in Brazil, in everywhere. Except Mexico. Mexican government doesn't let people come in and do that. They're nationalistic. So Trump is taking him on big time. And we are now seeing a civil emergency. They've cut off the Saudi Arabian funding that was going to the globalists. They're cutting off the Chinese communist funding. Trump has come out and called communist China out. He's come out and called Pakistan out. He's telling folks, you keep double dealing on us, we're going to pull all the foreign funding. Trump cut the taxes from 38.9% to 15 and 20, depending on the corporate tax structure, respectively. China, 1 day later, declared zero taxes on U.S. companies. Zero. Zero, zero. In fact, the executives pay no tax, the company pays no tax, period. You just have to invest everything in the Communist People's Liberation Army, and you have to become officially state-run. That has been announced by the Wall Street Journal, the New York Times. So you talk about economic warfare. Trump says, hey, you got our politicians 30 years ago to write this law to deindustrialize us. We're just going to meet you fairly. True free trade. And all the fake libertarian think tanks screamed and yelled and said, oh, my gosh, it's like smooth hauling, protectionism. Oh, my gosh, we're going to have a depression. You see the economy roar back, and China strikes back with zero, baby. You come here. You come here with your Apple and Facebook and Twitter and all your other divisions, and you will pay nothing. You're like, wow, the communists have zero tax, and we have a 15. But don't worry, we got Bernie Sanders. White people don't know what it's like to be poor. There are no white people. They're bad. Except when I swindle universities and have 6 houses and $100,000 cars and with $3,000 suits. And that capitalist Alex Jones is wearing a $300 sports jacket. I wear $3,000. But I'm a communist, so it's all right. Alex is wearing a $300 wool jacket, and when we looked up Bernie Sanders' coats, they're over $3,000. But that's all right. Yeah, I look like Einstein. And he's pledging, he's resolving to intensify the struggle against Trumpism in 2018. Now, why do I raise all this? I'm going to be getting into the taxes. I'm going to be getting into the pedophilia. I'm going to be getting into it all. Without even looking this morning, look at this stack of news. National Health Service clinic where children are prepared for sex changes with drugs. Here's another one. That's Daily Mail. Here's another one. Columnist says parents should buy their kids sex toys. That is the big daily newspaper in London, the Metro. Remember Jocelyn Elders coming in as the new head of the Surgeon General back under Bill Clinton? She had to step down. She's like, what you do with the kindergarten children? We had to find that clip. I played it years ago when I first got on air in 1995. She said it a few years before that. She goes, you got to have the school reach down and grab their little wee-wees and help them. She actually said, reach down and grab them and help them with their little, at nap time at the, and you're like, what the, see, so they've been really raring to push this openly for a long time. Oh, and so are the Muslims. That's why the globalists love Islam so much, large swaths of it. Turkish state institution says girls can marry and get pregnant at age 9. And don't forget this from last week. Little transgender shop sells fake genitals for little girls, which are really sex toys. But that's okay. It's liberal. UK NHS parents ask for female nurse. UK NHS patient asked for female nurse for cervical smear. It's tattooed trans man with stubble. He was a man with a beard, clearly muscular man. He had a male genitals, but the hospital's in trouble because the nurse refused to perform the pap smear, even though the man does not have a vagina and does not have a cervix. That you must do it. And that's like, people now think they're dogs. People think they're blind, so they dump Drano in their eyes. And our own government, the British government, pays for you to be blind on welfare. And people want to be dismembered. It's a new popular thing. And if you're against all this mental illness, you're anti-gay. Now, if the gay folks ought to be upset that they're connecting pedophilia, bestiality, all this stuff to you, and then every time someone criticizes sexualizing kids or pedophilia, they have all the major so-called gay magazines come out and say that I hate all the gay people. Camille Paglia comes out and says teaching 5-year-olds to be a different sex is child abuse. It's sexualization of children. She's a lesbian. She's a grown adult. She can do what she wants. She's not a pervert. It's perverted, whether you're a heterosexual or a homosexual, to go after children, period. And you've got the big push for this, so that's coming up. Meanwhile, gay cakes are not a constitutional right. Massive fines upheld in that. But then the left censors everybody else and refuses service to everybody else if you're a libertarian or a patriot. And the UK is trying to have Parliament vote to bar Trump from coming to their country. So we're going to be going over all that. Columnist says parents should buy their kids sex toys. And again, viewer discretion advised. This is what they're pushing on kids. And YouTube, again, will probably age restrict this, not because it's age restricted, but because they don't want you to know what's being done to the kids, because it's a whole agenda. It's a cult, ladies and gentlemen. And this is all about the major metro newspaper that's free citywide wants to teach your children how to play with themselves and says you should help them do it, like Joshua Elders said, and then they run pictures of little kids. That's like Solange shows some fat, drooling guy that looks like, a pedophile from Central Casting, saying he's a pedophile, saying, I like 5-year-olds. And it shows a little 5-year-old girl dancing around in a tutu with this slub, just slobber dripping out of his slovenly pie hole. So that's it. 2018, they were going to shut down the press. They were going to roll it all out. They were coming after your kids, forced inoculations, everything. But here's the problem. They're still executing this operation despite the fact they're imploding. By the way, the new leader in Germany who's set to replace Merkel, they're trying to arrest him right now for saying we need to stop Islamists raping women on New Year's. They're saying you're not allowed. Oh, Facebook, a man has been arrested for criticizing Islam in the UK, in California. So it's coming here. That's coming up. And we're going to get into how Trump has raised taxes on himself hundreds of millions of dollars conservatively, killing the property tax write-off above $10,000. Why no one's pointing this out, why Trump isn't. It's like he's waiting for people to figure it out. When he signed that thing and pushed it forward, he was giving everybody a giant gift. And I'm going to explain that. I'm going to explain that when we come back first. Because Bernie Sanders, I don't build anything. Me and my wife take things over, pump it up, suck all the money out, and burn it down. Just like we do in Venezuela. If you thought the globalists were angry at Trump before, they are in a foaming at the mouth, frothing hissy fit. Because one of their biggest scams that they don't just deploy here, but they deploy in Europe, areas of Latin America, Asia, you name it, has been blown to pieces. Now, I've already mentioned how the common sense thing that if we have a 38.9% tariff and China has a 15%, that's what it is, it's a tariff. That's what a corporate tax is, because the employees and the executives are paying taxes. If you have that, the country that has lower taxes and the infrastructure will end up getting the factories. Well, China has better infrastructure in most cases than we do now. Lloyd Blankfein, the head of Goldman Sachs this year, tweeted it, going, how's your infrastructure week going, Trump? You'll never get the country going. I just got back from China. It's way better than you. because they put all their eggs in that basket. That's how they militarily, economically thought they'd conquered us, was shifting almost all of our industry over to communist China. And it's happened right under our noses. And quite frankly, it accelerated under Ronald Reagan. He didn't know what was going on. It exploded under George Herbert Walker Bush. It went to light speed under William Jefferson Clinton. It continued to go crazy and mushroom, like thermonuclear bombs going off under George W. Bush. It went into ultra warp under Obama. And now, that's why I'm so gaga over Trump. He's delivering just fairness. Now, what happened? What happened, ladies and gentlemen? Bernie Sanders, the usual suspects, got up on TV and said, he's letting the rich people get their taxes cut from 40% to 15%. They already make hundreds of billions of dollars. They're the same globalist billionaires that wrote the laws to ship our jobs to China because they have investments in the factories on record. And you know that, scumbag. And you're playing class envy with dumbed-down constituents. And that's a lottery ticket crowd, folks, the people that just always think they're going to get the insurance money, they're going to get the lottery ticket. It's always, oh, yeah, Bernie wants to give me something free. Oh, he wants to make my school loans free. Oh, it's all free. It's all free. No, it's not free. Everything they touch, they pump and dump. Everything they touch, they burn down. It's what they do. Now, look at communist countries everywhere. It doesn't work except for the scum. So what did Trump do that was so amazing? What was so incredible? And he's got to release his state tax returns that I know are tied to the federal ones, but I guarantee you, because I've gone and looked at the laws, in New York, in New Jersey, in Florida, they have huge property taxes. They have income taxes as well, and they let you write all of those off on the federal tax. And then if you go look at the number of what Trump say paid in Florida or paid in New Jersey or New York, just pick one state, Mr. President. I've looked at your property values. They're in the billions per state. And you're going to have hundreds of millions in property tax and state income tax that Trump then wrote off on the federal taxes. And then you can have the headline, Trump raised taxes on himself hundreds of millions of dollars. This is the gigantic elephant in the room, the Stegosaurus, the Bronchiosaurus, the Brachiosaurus, the King Kong, the 10 million foot flame-throwing Easter bunny that is literally in the living room. And that is the ultimate truth-based propaganda against the globalists that Trump just did this. When he signed it and he pushed it, because he's somebody that's very competitive, when he did that, he took full satisfaction because it was literally going against his own interest and destroying the parasitic globalist program. Because let me give you the little inside baseball. If you look at blue states and blue areas and red areas, the system is get Democrats in charge, raise property taxes to the roof at the legislature and then in the cities. Then have your family in government launder the giant amount of money you pay through property tax back through the government that then gives you contracts for your own projects. And then no one else can compete with you because you then write it all off on your income tax and then use the rest of that money to expand your operations, while on average, they have studies all over the world, conservatives, 6 times more likely to give to charity. Liberals, 9 times more likely to steal? Republicans, way more likely to pay all their taxes. And there it is. There's Trump. He said that back in April of 2016. I believe in raising taxes on the wealthy, including myself. What did Trump tell you? And now even CNN admits, no, he does nothing to keep his promises, and we hate it. So now the governor of New York is flipping out, threatening him on TV. They've got Democrats in congressional hearings saying the president, quote, what is the most despicable person he's ever known. Trump is the most despicable human being, MSNBC, Stephen Cohen. Horrible creature out of Tennessee. It's attacked me many times. So think about that. That's what these guys have done. They know full well what they're doing. Here comes Trump, my taxes, and I'm not a big property owner, but that is where I've got my little backup nest egg, you know, stuff like that, homestead, is above $10,000 a year. I mean, ladies and gentlemen, if you've got a $500,000 house, your property tax is like $15,000. Austin has the highest in Texas, and it's a blue area. It is a rape gang. Almost none of it goes to the schools. It goes into all their little scams. So Trump's going to put pressure on areas to now lower the taxes. Now that the scam's over, they're going to lower taxes in all the blue areas. And then property values for smaller homes are going to go down so people can not be renters but be owners again. Trump is doing the most pragmatic, fair, loving system for people. I mean, this is how you make economies grow. It's how you lower deficits. It's how you put money in people's bank accounts if they want to work. It's how you unrig the economy. And again, Trump pays guaranteed hundreds of millions of dollars in property taxes and in state income taxes in those states where he has big businesses. And he needs to selectively release, just to show everybody, New York or New Jersey, where he's got the biggest holdings. He needs to release it. And people are going to go, oh, my God, he wrote off hundreds of millions, and he just took that away from himself. You better believe he did, folks. It's a fact. And he said, in fact, we put those articles, I think there's videos to him in the debates. He said, listen, I know how the scams work. I've already paid off all these people. I'll be honest with you. It's all legal, but it's payoffs. I don't like it. I want to quit bribing them. And the property tax, all these scams, I want to make it fair for the average person. If you bring me there, I guarantee you, you will not be disappointed. I will deliver. He's doing it. And we're so used to being lied to and screwed over that we can't believe he's actually telling the truth, except for Afghanistan, vaccines, and a couple other little things. Trump's doing everything he said. I give him about a 95 right now. But you know what? Afghanistan is a big waffle. We'll talk about that when we come back. Stay with us. Ladies and gentlemen, we are back live broadcasting worldwide. Coming up in the next segment, we've dug up some of the clips of during the campaign. Trump said the whole tax system is a scam for the rich to get out of paying taxes. I will go there for you because I know how the scam works, and I will blow the scam up, and I will raise taxes on the rich, and I will bring back $4 trillion, and I will boost the stock market, and I will bring back thousands of companies. And I will do it all because I know how the scam works. I've been living inside of it for decades, and I hate it. And I thought somebody else good would come along and stop this madness, but I've had to run for president. Remember all those speeches? We need to get all those clips together and put out historical documents, promos, showing how this is so revolutionary, and that's why they want to kill the president. We'll also play the clip, again, where Congressman Cohen says Trump is the most despicable human being for these tax cuts for the people. He's raising taxes on the rich, getting rid of all their big loopholes, everything Bernie Sanders claims he wants to do, but Sanders just wants everything free and to get rid of the wealth and consolidate control, and then everything falls apart. Instead of having it be set up in a free market system and not rigged, though, so that the ultra-rich write the laws where they are tax exempt. So that is all coming up in the next segment. Now, that said, facts are facts. And I know once you quote the president, you're up there and you know what's going on, that things are a little bit different. And I understand that since we've been crushing, with Russia's help, ISIS in North Africa and in Syria and Iraq, that the ISIS fighters are now leaving to one of their last hideouts, and that is Afghanistan. So here's the articles up on Infowars.com. Turkish State Institution says girls can marry and get pregnant at age 9. We're going to tie that in to the situation we've got in Pakistan and all of the insanity that is unfolding there as well. But if you look at what's happening in Pakistan, in Afghanistan, and in Iran, it's all interconnected. Trump accuses Obama administration of helping fund Iran's terrorism, praises protest. Pakistan summons U.S. envoy calls emergency meetings after Trump's no more tweet. We're going to get into that and how it ties into Trump announcing his change of his Afghanistan stance to actually up troops. And again, in 2013 and 2014, 15, 16, he said that we shouldn't be there. We've been there for 15 years at the time. Now it's like 17, 18 years. He said it's our longest running war. It's a bunch of tribalists. There is no government. They're never going to stop killing each other. We got to get out of there. And we need Pakistan to help us. Well, he got convinced to send more troops in, as you know, 6 months ago. And the word was that was to defeat ISIS and al-Qaeda, defeat the Taliban, make them sue for peace, and then pull out gracefully. But, of course, the quagmire just gets deeper, shades of Vietnam all over again. And here is that report. Trump shifts gears on Afghanistan. The Hill, President Trump has now again come out and said that after decrying nation building during his presidential campaign and lambasting Afghanistan as a complete waste, the president is in the midst of sending thousands more troops to the country in an effort to stabilize it. The move, military commanders say, will help break the stalemate in the longest U.S. war in history and help beat back a resurgent Taliban and struggling Islamic State in Iraq and Syria. But defense experts say there's little indication the shift will be a quick fix. The U.S. must contend with an increased ISIS presence while keeping Afghanistan politically stable and pressuring Pakistan to limit the space for the Taliban and other terrorist groups, according to James Carafarno of the Conservative Heritage Foundation. We're seeing foreign fighters flow there. We've also seen some regional tensions and challenges for the government, said a member of the Trump transition team to the Hill. Let me tell you what's really going on in case Trump hadn't been briefed on this. I'm sure he has. It's a double game, just like they've caught elements of CIA contractors training remnants of ISIS in Iraq and Syria to rebrand it and reconstitute it. We reported that months ago, then weeks ago, and now it was mainstream news last week. McMaster says, oh, we're going to attack Assad, take him out. Trump says, no, we're not. That's not our policy. So it's just an example of the mutiny that's going on. So I trust the president. He's gotten so much done, and it's been so real. I trust that he really is trying to execute this, but he has gone back on what he said he would do in Afghanistan. And so the double game's the same thing as you see happening in Syria. They go in, and groups that work with globalist interests, and that's who's still in control of our military to a great extent, they get a carpet of gold. Groups that don't, they get killed. And so they also want to be able to have a Taliban, al-Qaeda, Wahhabist force there in case they need to use it against Iran or as a proxy army against others to keep Iran in line. But it's this argument of keeping all these proxy groups around to play them off against each other in a, quote, balance of power, great game, divide and conquer stratagem. Is it still always just bolsters corrupt and evil groups, and it's not chivalry-based, it's not honor-based, and it's used to then menace us with this horrible, evil Islamic ideology in the West, so we have an excuse for a big police state and take our basic liberties. And then it's not just used to menace the West and take control of us. They then bring in giant groups of these individuals, mainly military-age men, to colonize the United States and Europe in a repopulation operation where the globalists are trying to merge an incompatible authoritarian system with the West. Because the globalists want to get rid of the West. They want to sabotage the West. They want to derail the West because they want to consolidate control of it. So Ron Paul and others are rightly pointing out that there's CIA fingerprints in a lot of what's happening in Iran right now. But Iran is unelected mullahs who then allow certain people to run for office. And they've done internal polls where over 70% of the population doesn't want to be under the authoritarian Iranians. So at a certain point, it becomes this issue of, okay, if the Iranians are in the streets trying to overthrow their government, do we, just because we don't like the globalist CIA, then sit there and back the mullahs that are just as bad or worse? Because there's a real struggle taking place right now about the future of Iran. I'd love to see the country, quote, democratized. The problem is so many times democratization is the byword for the destabilization breakup of Syria we saw attempted. So again, there is no pure path in all this. Everyone just needs to know This is what's happening. This is what's going on. This is what's unfolding. And Trump has been sucked in by McMaster and by others into this great game, divide and conquer strategy. And long term, it only shows breakdown of civilization and other major problems. And again, is used in a larger triple game by the globalists to end up flooding the West with Islamicists. And again, using the very threat of the Islamicists to take our liberties and set up a high-tech police state that's actually used to target the American people, including the president and this administration and our attempts to reboot the economy and the republic. So that's why these policies must end. That said, Steve Pieczenik, former State Department and, of course, CIA and a lot of other things involved in regime change, involved in the whole hostage crisis and the Delta Force, and Delta Force first being sent into Iran in the failed mission, all of that. He's going to join us coming up in the third hour to talk about that. And he thinks regime change is good, and he thinks that this is a good thing and that we need to back the young people that are there. I know this. I don't back CNN demonizing the young people and saying that they're bad folks when they're getting shot by the paramilitary forces. So we're going to look at that coming up. But my gut says remove the mullahs. But then the problem is they might double-cross back and put something even worse in. But I do want the people to not live under a monotheistic dictatorship. We'll be back. Stay with us.
Reputation's amazing. I will not let you down. You will be very, very impressed, I hope.
Yes, Mr. President, we are very, very impressed. And you are a real president, the real commander-in-chief. This is a battle for the republic and the world. And I take that order directly from you to intensify and to never stop and to keep it up. That's exactly what we're doing. 110%. You've not let us down, and we're going to try to not let you down. And thank God for everybody that prayed on their knees and sought God's face for at least some decency to come back into this country and the world. There's a huge awakening happening all over the planet, and it's incredible. Now, just looking the last 30 minutes, we found a bunch of these clips, and I'm going to have McBreen or one of the other great researchers clip them together so we can start running some special reports on this. Hours of Trump during the debates and speeches, going through different loopholes, property tax, state income tax loopholes, the write-offs at the federal level that the Democrats and others put in to previous tax bills, how the China corporate tax works, how their internal tariffs on us, how he would raise taxes on himself and get rid of the loopholes. And give away his salary. He's now done that. Donald Trump says he's fine with raising taxes on himself. Fortune magazine, 2015, when he first announced. Here's another one. Donald Trump says he's okay with raising taxes on himself. Market Watch. Got a bunch of these, 2015, 2016. And again, why is that important? Because the Democrats drive up property costs and drive up things in all the cities they run. You ever wondered why Democrat-run cities are like 5 times more than conservative-run cities? Because it's all scam run. They exempt themselves federally from taxes. They put all the money in locally. They then get government contracts back from their own money that goes into the city, county, and local governments. That's how their scam works. That's why every wealthy Democrat you know is embedded in government. Because it's how they operate. Just like all the big Democrat-owned and run media outlets and big computer companies and big internet companies from Google, Facebook, Twitter, Yahoo, they all pay zero tax or close to it because they go to Ireland and places that have zero tax. Or they go to China where they don't even implement the tax. And now China's gone to zero to counter Trump. And I know I keep harping on this. I've got hundreds of news stories because it's everything. No one's pointing out Trump kept his promises to raise taxes on himself. That headline isn't anywhere. Think about how much property he owns in places with property tax. It's incredible. Yeah, there's the New York Times. China said on Thursday it would temporarily exempt foreign companies from paying taxes on their earnings, a bid to keep American businesses from taking their profits out of China following Washington's overhaul of the tax code. But you have to merge it with the government. There is, however, a catch. To be eligible, foreign companies must invest those earnings in sectors encouraged by Chinese government, things they own, of course, including railways, mining, technology, and agriculture, according to a statement from the finance ministry. The measure is retroactive from January 1st this year. The ministry said. And if you read the plan, it's zero tax. So, the communists have zero because they're commies. They always pay zero. You work in a slave mine, but Bernie Sanders, he's got 6 houses and $100,000 cars and $3,000 suits. Hey, white people don't know what it's like to be poor. Okay? But continuing, and Cenk Uygur of the Young Turks is caught saying women are subhuman. Well, he's an Islamicist. Of course he says that. Funded by Gulf state dictatorships. He's a dirtbag. They're all force-fed dirtbags. Unchivalrous piles of filth. Cowardly scum directly out of hell. Excuse me. Let's go ahead and play this. Let's go to this clip of Trump. They want to tax Wall Street after all the other taxes. That'll just kill investment. Trump's like, no. Get rid of the loopholes and just make the people that actually get the money pay more. Don't tax the interaction. Don't tax the transaction. That's what the globalists always want, because they can exempt themselves. Tax the wealth at the final end of it. And yes, tax the ultra-rich, especially if they're monopolists. Break their monopolies up. That's Americana. That's what America was about, breaking up the British monopolies. Let's hear from the president right now. Here it is.
Do you believe in raising taxes on the wealthy?
I do, including myself. I do.
Willie, I'm with Ella Walder. She is right here in New York City, registered.
That's 2016, ladies and gentlemen. And if you go through it all, he's done everything he'd say so far. And he says it's going to get even better next year. So why am I cheerleading? Because we're seeing such amazing things happen. Now, this particular Congressman Cohen on Ventura's TV show that I consulted on dealing with the FEMA camps was so serious, showing COG and martial law plans, things by the Democrats, that Cohen got involved in Congress, threatened Time Warner that owned True TV at the time, and a lot of other stuff happened I'm not at liberty to talk about behind the scenes at the facilities in Los Angeles. And I've been told not to talk about it, so I won't. But let's just say it got serious. And Cohen is the one that on the TV interviews Ventura and says there are no model states held Emergency Powers Act. There is no civilian inmate labor camp program. There are none of this is real. And Ventura's like, here's the law and here's the new laws and here you authored it. And he goes, oh, that bill, in his fake Southern accent. I'll have a mint julep, please. Oh, I declare. So let's go ahead and hear from this guy demonizing the president.
Is the most despicable human being to ever reside at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue.
Congressman, let me ask you this.
Yes.
Go ahead.
That's enough of this. Flath rag. Get him off there. Thank you. So that's I mean, they're mad. They're all mad that their scams are coming down. They're all very upset. These are what we call parasitic creatures. Now, speaking of support, we don't take your money at gunpoint. We don't force you like NPR or National Public Radio or even NBC that got billions of stimulus money to fund all their failed systems and force feed us garbage. I get money from you. And if we had a ton more money, my job would be a lot more easy. Okay? I had to budget and spend a lot of time even trying to raise it. I'm not complaining. But if you want me on the field, right? You want me hiring more crew, more reports, more websites, more documentaries. I know if we had 5 times the money, I could launch stuff right now that would accelerate the globalist collapse even faster. I mean, look what we've already done with your help. We deliver with the investment you've made in us. We are 100% attacking the globalists with victory, but we've got lots of knife wounds, just to let you know. You can feel the energy rising in 2018. A lot of people are scared. A lot of them have anxiety. People that are in touch with the universe, with God. That's because the enemy is scared and is now realizing they're failing, they're falling. Goodness is coming back in the world, optimism, the fact that betrayal is evil and not cool. This is being rediscovered. And Darren McBreen put together another amazing montage of late-night comedy that we never aired. My fault, I guess. From a few weeks ago of them making fun of Trump. He'll never get his tax cut. It's horrible. It's a joke. It only helps rich people. It's all a lie. So what have I been harping on mainly today? I've been talking about the fact that he got rid of the property tax, state income tax write-off on federal taxes that actually raises taxes on rich people, mainly globalists and Democrats, that have set up the scam. And so he's blowing the scam out of the water, and that will make them now precipitously. Next year, it's going to happen. I predict you will see property taxes lowered nationwide by 30% by the time we herald 2018 being bygones and bygones, and by the time we go into 2019. I predict that in 11 months and 29 days, that property taxes nationwide have been dropped 30%, and that state income taxes nationwide, on average, will drop by 20%. That's a prediction. We can mark that down. I think it's going to be higher. But because the Democrats, again, all run local government and launder it out into operations and building projects and companies they own and things that are related to government. That's all they do. They run nonprofits. That's why they issued 3 nonprofits during the middle years of the Obama administration to conservatives or libertarians or Christians or veterans groups. They issued, it was millions to Democrats because they don't pay taxes, folks. They're criminals. They know how to run a scam on you hard. They know how to make you dependent so they can point at you and say, we're taking care of these people. And then they exploit you with the medical programs they run against the poor. And all these things are scams that they run on the underclass. They're the people that ran the slaves and the sharecroppers and the company store. It's all they know how to do. Scallywag, carpetbagger. When you look at somebody like Bernie Sanders, he is the ultimate scumbag, the ultimate filth, the ultimate cowardly, stupid, fake intellectual fraud. Running around engaged in class warfare when he owns all these houses and $100,000 cars and $3,000 suits. Trying to say Trump's tax plans was bad when it was classical Americana, empower the people, empower the population. And that's what makes me so mad about him is I know people like Sanders. They go in, they take over local colleges for 5 years, they extract millions of dollars for themselves, and they blow it wide open. They come in, they suck it dry, they implode it. Just like they do Venezuela or Cuba or North Korea or what the Russians went under the globalists. They're all evil people. I mean, you get behind the scenes with these liberals, they're not liberals. They're hissing con artists. They're vicious. And they're just soulless, greedy trash. And they hate everyone. And when you get around these controllers, Democrat controllers, I remember going to like smart growth conferences and going, here's the documents, it's a scam, and it's meant to deindustrialize and only give it to a handful of people. And they would just shove you out of the way. To the times I didn't have a camera. Mike Hansen, we shot a bunch of it down there. And they'd say, of course we know that, you idiot. And we're just like, They're all just in there, just how do we organize crime? How do we push this? How do we share the wealth? How do we scam people? How do we do it? You got to understand, these are vicious, vicious, vicious criminals that want to hurt you and your family as much as they can because they are scum. They know they are scum. We'll be back. Stay with us. Because good people are standing up, like Thomas Jefferson said, and the tide is turning, but the enemy is panicking. 2018 will be the deciding year globally. We now have the upper hand, but the enemy is going to strike back viciously. Now, again, I'm going to open the phones up in the next segment. I'm going to give the number out here in a moment. But the first thing I wanted to do starting this hour is play a compilation of late-night comedians so we can analyze their deception, lying to the American people about tax cuts, deceiving them, saying Trump would never get it, or saying that it only helps rich people, when raising taxes on the rich is exactly what just happened, amongst many other things, like transferring trillions back to the U.S. that have been held in China, you name it, with the corporate tax cut. And this is so seismic, the Democrats are now so angry, they've gone to the next level because it's the property tax and the state income tax loophole that can be written off federally that allowed the Democrats to amass such incredible wealth locally in their crime syndicates that they then used to basically attack out as bases. Like they say Austin is an attack base to take over the rest of Texas, raise the taxes, make the people poor, put them in coffin-size apartments, raise the taxes so high you live in a coffin apartment. This is their admitted operation. And so Trump's gone in and gotten rid of his biggest tax write-offs at the federal level. And then huge tax cuts for middle-class working families, doubling the child credit from $2,000 to $4,000, on and on and on. The average family, even CBS News had to admit, is getting a $13,000 tax cut. Trump wanted it if you made under $65,000 a year, zero. Because it is true, it's the ultra-rich that have most of the money, and they should be paying more tax. But they're all greedy globalists to a person, except for Trump and a few others. Google, Facebook, Twitter, they all pay no tax. They all have literal slave-like conditions in suicide factories, suicide nets, forced abortions, 18-hour work days, people's hands bleeding, people washing their butts in the sink, bed bugs everywhere. They love it. But they virtue signal all day long. And so now they're freaking out. They package their propaganda via these comedy shows. They admit they coordinate with the Democrats. And so these are vicious people, again, literally preying on you. These are fake comics reading off teleprompters, posing as newsmen, reading globalist scripts, attacking their enemy, the American people who they've had their boot on the neck of for decades. And now they're in a full parasitic convulsion. So here's Trump saying, I'm going to raise taxes on the rich. He's just done it. And then here is the lying media. Here it is.
We're going to give the American people a huge tax cut for Christmas. Hopefully that will be a great, big, beautiful Christmas present.
Boo! You promised us a wall. Boo!
Well, the good news for President Trump is that his tax plan just passed the Senate. The bad news is he might not be president long enough to sign it.
How could Trump possibly defend a plan that raises taxes on the middle class and cuts them for high earners? Well, by not knowing or understanding anything about it.
You have a group of people who have no idea how to govern. They don't understand public policy. They don't understand how this country interacts with the rest of the world. There are people that have never held these jobs who for the most part want to destroy the very agencies that they're representing.
Trump could save like $1 billion in taxes.
He's going to benefit beautifully.
I really believe that he ran for president just so that he could cut his own taxes. He had no interest in governing. I swear to God.
Experts also say the plan will give huge tax cuts to households making over $1 million a year. Of course, all that money will eventually trickle down, first from rich parents to their kids, and then from those kids to their Molly dealers at Coachella.
I mean, finally we have a leader who understands what average truckers care about, passing our multi-million-dollar estates on to our privileged offspring.
You know, once the Republicans get this tax bill passed, they won't need Donald Trump anymore. I mean, they already got what they wanted. You know, I mean, it's not like they like you.
It looks like Trump is, how should I put this? What's the word? Lying? Because based on the last Trump tax return that we know anything about, this plan would have saved him $31 million in taxes. That's $31 million for himself.
Hit pause.
I am submitting.
Back that up. See, it cut corporate income tax by 2% in his bracket. I've had my accountants come in and look at it. Okay? I'm in the same bracket because there's just one bracket above $250,000 that just goes up. And again, the property taxes and the state income taxes, not being able to write that off now above $10,000 is hundreds and hundreds of millions for Trump. See how that works? But they think you're dumb. He just raised his own taxes by hundreds of millions of dollars as he promised to do, and these scumbags are lying. Here they are.
$1 million in taxes. That's $31 million for himself.
I am submitting to this court of inquiry that is the reason he ran, so that he would make money. It is not, I don't believe his motivation was to help the country or for the greater good or for patriotic reasons.
The reviews are in and people can't stop talking about my new tax plan. Oh my God, I loved
Trump's new tax plan.
It was awesome and action-packed.
I usually can never drag her out to see my new tax plan.
I didn't expect to like it, but...
Trump's new tax plan.
To summarize, our plan goes from 8 tax brackets down to 4, cuts the corporate tax rate from much more and equal to 35% tax, and brings it all the way down to 20%, and cuts tax rates for small businesses to the lowest level in more than 80 years.
Yes, bottom line, he's taken our tax plan back more than 80 years to the 1930s, the era that will forever be known as the Great Happiness.
Stop messing with people and telling them that we're going to pay for a wall we didn't ask for. If you're going to generate money for the economy, and also, I'm sorry, you know, I have a huge thing. If you really want to help the middle class and generate money for the economy, you need to keep money in the middle class pocket.
That's what this is doing.
No, that's not what this is doing. No.
There are some elements of it that will benefit the middle class. We've got to make those permanent.
The general shape of this legislation has been clear from its first iterations, that it will hurt people who make less money. It'll hurt poor people, working people, middle-class people.
We see broadly that this tax bill is unpopular and that the overwhelming majority of the American people believe clearly the benefits do go to the wealthy.
All of the elite media is lying about the tax cuts. So that day after day after day, they lie about it. And then you go to the average American and say, what do you think? And they say, well, gosh, based on what I've heard, I guess I'm against it.
All these big corporations and rich individuals put their money offshore. They put their businesses offshore. They put their manufacturing offshore. You know why? Because they're sick of paying taxes here. That's why our deficit is so bad. That's why our trade deals are so bad. That's what Trump is trying to address. And nobody gets it.
This is the linchpin to making America great again. This is the linchpin to supercharging our economy. And again, do it for yourself. Anybody can just go to a search engine, type in 2017 Dow Jones Industrial Average stock market, and you can see it right up there at almost 25,000, ladies and gentlemen. Now, again, go back to that graph. Some people say, well, it's a balloon, it's a bubble. Yes, but it's been a bubble only for the globalist. Now it's becoming a bubble for the people, and Trump understands only a bubble is going to get us out of this because the communist Chinese, everybody else had it rigged at 10% growth rates for decades. Us with less than 3%, they told us it was impossible. But as soon as he simply took a few of the controls off that they had on us to artificially transfer the wealth, it all came back in. And I know I keep hammering this. I'm going to give the number out when we come back, shift gears into some other big subjects. This is the year also that the pedophiles are coming out of the closet. They're openly announcing that you should basically, well, wait till I come back and cover this. It's the first broadcast of yours truly, Alex Jones, in 2018. Thank you so much for joining us. I want to open the phones up, starting in the next segment, to talk about the Trump tax cuts, to talk about the media trying to lie about it for months. Now I've even seen CBS News and others, shockingly, do reports admitting it's an average, giant tax cut for the average family, $13,000. It just goes on and on. It makes the head spin. And then to see communist China lower their taxes to zero, but only if U.S. companies go work with the government and direct their operations to only invest those profits in China. Trump's just doing it verbally, saying, hey, we'll cut it to match China. Please come back to America, some of you. Please build one Apple factory here and don't have suicide nets. And because of that, Congressman Cohen calls Trump the most despicable human being. The most despicable. Isn't that just cute? And then we've got these reports. Then I'm getting into the pedophiles coming out of the closet in 2018. Despite the fact they're getting arrested en masse, that's why they're trying to normalize it as quickly as they can in the New York Times and Salon and everywhere else, saying, leave us alone, we're good people. Let us sexualize your children. Wait till I get to this. But Comey provoked social media stir after hoping for more ethical leadership in 2018. The articles are up on Infowars.com and Newswars.com. And he came out and said, you know, we need ethical leadership. Former FBI Director James Comey, incredibly corrupt, illegally leaking, lying to Congress, covering up for the Clintons, telling Hillary that her investigation was really over. They were going to stage an investigation. Loretta Lynch, all of it, Uranium One. I mean, this guy looks like a 7-foot-tall, what's the name of the famous ventriloquist doll? It looks real creepy. I mean, he just looks like a pervert to me. I mean, I'm sorry. He is the most disingenuous, criminal-looking slime bag. He looks like the ultimate psychopath, where they're supposed to be sharp and nice and look just perfect and, hi, how you doing? But you take one look at him and you say, danger, Will Robinson. Oh, and you look at Mueller. Oh, what another. But that's a power-tripping, corrupt nutball. That's what Mueller is. I mean, and I'm not just saying this. Their records show it. They're horrible jokes. And they always walk into Congress like they're the boss. We're the most powerful institution in America. We trump the voters. We trump everything. We're God. I'm King Mueller. I'll do whatever I want and have fake dossiers, and I'll break all the laws, go after the president, and make a bunch of crap. And I'll get my own waivers because I'm in bed with the Russians. And I'll protect all the real criminals. And I'll walk in looking real tough. I mean, imagine if guys walk like that into a restaurant, you'd laugh at them. All act like they're real tough, get you. Bunch of crooks. Comey provokes social media stir after hoping for more ethical leadership in 2018. Here's hoping in 2018 brings more ethical leadership focused on the truth of lasting values. This is the same FBI that wouldn't let you go after any Islamicist. I'm not saying the average FBI agent's bad, but I mean, these are the globals that hijacked it. They took it over. They're not the FBI. Comey wrote in an apparent swipe at President Trump, who fired him last year, Happy New Year's, everybody. This is the guy that let her get away with the illegal server, all the criminal activity. WikiLeaks drops proof, remember this, that New York Times colluded with Hillary. That's in the Daily Wire, Associated Press, everywhere. Well, who first broke this? During the campaign back in 2016, over a year ago, Paul Joseph Watson just burrowed in, wrote the report, and Snopes, funded by George Soros, debunked us and just said, we say it's not collusion, when the New York Times is calling up the campaign and emailing them saying, these stories are coming out, how do you want to spin it, what do you want to do? Well, guess what? New emails came out that are even worse, just confirming everything we said. It's up on Infowars.com. We need to jam this story by Paul Joseph Watson down the globalist throat, down the Twitter bots' throats, down all their throats, because what a discredited fake news organ. Snopes lies down on its back and pure lies come out. Snopes debunked on claim New York Times didn't collude with Hillary Clinton. Got to go read the article for yourself. And, of course, we broke it. Here it is. The New York Times Clinton supporters donated $700,000 to help Trump accusers. Oh, now the New York Times is reporting on what we told you over a year ago and what we broke again 2 weeks ago, that it was going to come out that all these women had been paid off, and that it was made up, and that some women demanded $2 million to make it up, and there it is out of the Hill. Get next year's news today at Infowars.com. Next year's news today at Infowars.com. And the only way the site gets out is when you hand share the links and the articles and videos. It's blocked everywhere else. It's only you. Only you can stop forest fires. Only you can give the globalists a bloody nose every day. So keep spreading those links, and we salute you. So there you go, ladies and gentlemen. That's just some of the key news there. The toll-free number to join us is 877-789-2539. What do you think about that? What do you think about the tax cuts? What do you think about the spin? What do you think about all the thousands of companies announcing they're coming back? Do you think they're going to try to kill Trump? I mean, they say they are. How are they going to strike back now that they're in so much trouble? And now, oh, I forgot, more national chiefs, more heads of state in Europe are coming out and saying that they're pulling out of globalism, that it's evil and corrupt. And the UN chief calls for unity against nationalism. Globalists reveal their true agenda. It's an amazing story by Joy Jawowski up on newswars.com. Or Zelensky. I'm sorry, my eyes are starting to go. They used to be perfect. So there you go, ladies and gentlemen. So much to cover on that front as well. Here it is. Danish Prime Minister announces Denmark first agenda, calls for end of parallel societies. The EU is tax exempt. The bureaucrats are tax exempt. It's a dictatorship. It has a ceremonial parliament. But again, even the ceremonial parliament has now become the real government as it exposes the unelected bureaucracy. And the resistance to the EU is coming from the parliament, still made up of adherents to the nation state model, not the global eugenics slave combine. Please support the broadcast. We're going to break, coming back with your phone calls and more. We are back live. We're going to be taking your phone calls one after the other. Toll-free number to join us, 877-789-2539. We're going to go to the first caller of the year here in just a moment. Ricky in California will be the first caller. We'll go to Marcos, Tim, Tom, and many, many others. And again, we have a digital phone line system, so up to 100 people can call in at once. But your chance to get in is when you hear somebody hang up. So again, we're going to be going to those phone calls here in just a moment. I've mentioned this already today, but in the interest of going to calls, I'm going to actually cover it at the start of the next hour because it's just too important. And it shows the mentality of the pedophile and pervert and coalitions we're up against. And every time I cover this, they have the so-called liberal gay publications come out and say that I hate gay people. I talked about all these thousands of new sexual preferences and hundreds that Facebook's recognizing. How could anyone ever know all the names? It's total confusion. And there's TV shows I see where people are having sex with their cars, and it's a growing phenomenon where they have sex with appliances, are in love with inanimate objects, and in love with these robot sex dolls they're buying. They'll take it, edit it down to 10 seconds, and then say, Alex Jones says gay men want to rape your car's tailpipe. And then literally somebody walks up in the street and goes, why have you been bashing gay people? I saw the article where you said people want to have, that gay men want to rape cars. You know, Alex, that's not true. And it's the craziest thing. It's the social engineers have attached all this other stuff on to the LGBT agenda or whatever you want to say, and it's now that agenda. I'm not the one, like Jocelyn Elders, the former head of the Surgeon General operation, saying, reach down and help the kindergartners play with themselves. That's sexualization of children. Stay away from our children's genitals, Jocelyn Elders. In fact, although they found the clip, we'll play it, come up in a moment. Reach down and help them. Remember that controversy from 1994? But here's today. Little transgender shop sells fake genitals for little girls. UK NHS patient asked for female nurse to give cervical smear, gets tattooed trans man with stubble. I don't think Breitbart's headline makes sense. It's man with tattoos and stubble. Muscular man comes in and demands the nurse give him a cervical smear. He didn't have a female genitals. He had male genitals, and now they're saying she's bad. I mean, if someone comes in and says they're Puff the Magic Dragon, and then they want you to pull a thorn out of their paw, I'm Leo the lion, or I'm Leo the dragon. Pull the thorn out of my paw. And you're like, you're not a lion. Yes, do it. You're mentally ill. No, you have been turned into a mental patient. The UK is now an open-air mental institution, and the Tavistock Institute, run by MI6, admits they launched the whole gender confusion thing. I don't hate you if you think you're a man or woman. And I know there are some men that like men or whatever. That's not the issue. The issue is this is being pushed on kids. And if a man comes into a nurse and pulls his pants down and says, I want a pap smear, brother, you don't have a cervix. But in California, you get arrested for saying brother. That's right. They have a law that if someone identifies as a woman or a man and you call them by the wrong name, you get arrested. Well, then arrest us. You cult of authoritarians. You are out of control. But it's all done by top psychologists and psychiatrists. One time I had dinner with a former psychiatrist that worked for the State Department. He told me about the Tavistock Institute. This is about 20 years ago with Ted Anderson. First time I visited Minnesota, he wanted me to meet the station owner. And I went and met the guy. He was a very intelligent, very smart guy, and I looked him up. He was famous. And he just said, Alex, just start researching what they're doing to the kids. He goes, I can't tell you, but he started cussing. He just goes, it's the most horrible thing. They're going to end the families, confuse everything. They're teaching them to blah, blah, blah. And I kind of knew about it, but I didn't really know. This is a guy that worked with the Tavistock Institute. There's no way he's alive now. He was really old. And then Ted Anderson said, hey, this station owner wants to talk to you. And if you'll meet with him, he'll put you on a station. And I went and met with him. He put us on late at night or whatever the point was, is that Ted was there. I ought to have Ted on to tell the story. I forget that guy's name. But he was sitting there telling me all this, and I'm going, uh-huh. And I remember thinking, you know, this is a little extreme for me. This is like 19 years ago. So here it goes. UK NHS patient asks for female nurse for cervical smear. Gets tattooed trans man with stubble. Look at this one. NHS clinic where children are preparing for sex changes, the Daily Mail. They're putting young children on drugs. And look, Tavistock Institute. I tweeted about Tavistock, and people said, oh, yeah, what's this made-up group you claim's behind it? And people started looking. They're like, oh, my God, they admit the whole plan in the 60s to do this. And they've done it. And here's the coup de grace. Columnist says parents should buy their kids sex toys. Looks like someone have moved beyond debates about sex education in public schools, which is really about sexualization, and instead advocating something new, such as buying children sex toys. Ellen Scott, the lifestyle editor for the United Kingdom's metro.co.uk, wrote in an op-ed Saturday that parents should consider purchasing masturbation tools for their children. In fact, she argues it's a parent's responsibility to make sure your children's entirely normal exploration of their sexuality is safe, healthy, enjoyable, and in their own hands. Yeah, you got to get them sexualized right now, and you've got to get involved because we want you to get ready to have other people involved with your children. That's what it's all about. And then it shows images of children playing with themselves. And I don't even though this is in a major newspaper that's given out for free, and I don't think we should even show all of this, ladies and gentlemen. Okay? I mean, this is sick. It shows little girls' panties that are, I can't even say it on air. Good God. And it shows children being sexualized. This is for pervs to look at. This is 100% pedophilia porn masquerading in public. Newspaper publishes pedophilia porn in the UK. The article's been taken down. They just pulled it. Snopes will hit us and say it isn't real. Wow, well, we got screenshots of it all. Sorry. We couldn't find our page, but it's working on it. And you know what pedophiles do? They always go, I got a puppy, I got a toy bear, get my ice cream truck. See, it's okay and cute because it's a polar bear 404 era. Oh, we're little cuties. We're nice. And we got candy. Behind the scenes, just satanic rituals, just total. Kill the child. Corrupt them all. Liberal. The Jacobin nightmare is upon us. So, now I will go to break with your calls. I promise. I was going to cover this in the next segment. I just can't mention something and not cover it. But that is the psych warfare plan. Ladies and gentlemen. And it's here. And it's happening. And they're just going to push it, and they got your kids, and they got you through the TV and the media, and you got to realize it's happening. You've got to pull away from it, or they'll get you. They'll get us all. Now, again, we need, in 2018, despite all their censorships, Congress admitting they're censoring us, with the leaders of the internet. Ladies and gentlemen, we've got big breaking news. The largest paper in London, the Metro, that millions of people read every week, has published a child sex manual with graphic cartoon images of children masturbating and having orgasms, including fluids, and has encouraged parents to give them sex toys and sexualize them. It's been up since the 31st. They have pulled the article minutes after we began talking about it, showing why the globalists in Congress admit they want us shut down, because we are able to expose their operations that they want to just put out and normalize. We're able to expose them up front and cause a debate. They don't want that. They want normalization with no debate, to put you into a Stockholm Syndrome program where you're just basically, through peer pressure, conditioned to accept all of this. There's another article about it, column that says parents should buy their kids sex toys. You click on it, it's really a child sex manual with incredible images, some of which we're not even going to show you. We've shown you some of the horrific ones, but not the ones that I believe could be criminal. But let's go ahead now, ladies and gentlemen, as promised, and go directly to your phone calls. First caller of the year will be Ricky. Ricky in California. You're on the air worldwide.
How you doing, Alex?
I'm doing all right, brother. An amazing time. How are you doing?
You know what, man? You know, I gotta tell you. You know what? My sister, myself, we were true Democrats. We were voting for Clinton, and you know, we supported Obama, but you know what? My eyes have been open. My eyes have been open. Thank God that you are his servant over there at InfoWars. You guys are fantastic. Everybody who's supporting your show, you are the tip of the spear. God is.
You know, that's terrible. We did not hang up on him, and he disconnected. Let's try to get him back on. Let's try to get him back on as soon as we can. Leave the phones open. Leave a phone line open so he can get back on. I really wanted to hear what he had to say. Sometimes that happens, too, when we're getting other callers lined up. We might hit the wrong button. I'm not sure. Wow. Sorry to lose you, sir. Let's go ahead and take another call. Let's talk to Kevin in West Virginia. Kevin, thanks for holding. You're on the air. Go ahead. Hi, Kevin.
Hey, Mr. Alex, how's Bizarro World treating you today?
You know, my life is a real twilight zone, but so is everybody else's. We live on an incredible planet with a lot of good things, a lot of bad things.
Sometimes I wonder if me losing my eyesight's a blessing in disguise so I don't have to see all the evil in the world. But that's not why I called you. I think you were asking about the taxes and about the next shoe to drop. If you could close your eyes for a minute and envision this headline, Trump is insane because he raises taxes on himself. Could that be a possible spin that they could put on this?
They don't know what to do. I mean, he said, I will raise taxes on myself. I will get rid of the loopholes where the rich pay almost no taxes. Believe me, I know. I bought all these people off. It's totally legal. I want to end it. And he just got rid of their biggest scam, writing off their property taxes above $10,000. That's a Democrat scam. They admit it. They're hopping mad. That will absolutely pay down the deficit like nothing we've ever seen. It's trillions of dollars in the next few years. I mean, it is incredible. And again, he is a guy that's property rich and pays a lot of state income tax. This is an incredible tax increase on himself.
Absolutely. And I wonder, you know, would they try to invoke and say, yeah, see, he don't know what he's doing. We need to get him out because he don't know what he's doing and raises taxes upon himself. The other angle I wanted to look at this, too, with the 25th Amendment, could they say if we actually, like Zach was talking about, employ a strike on North Korea, could they call him mentally deranged and hawkish for starting something over with North Korea, even though it needs to be done, and I don't want
Yes, that's why they've had some of the Obama-appointed and Clinton-appointed generals come out and say that, well, if he gives an illegal order, we can arrest him, implying that he's going to give an illegal order, or implying ordering a strike on North Korea would be illegal. Well, when it's not, you may disagree with it, you may agree with it, but the president can do that. So again, ladies and gentlemen, the way to reverse that would be try to impeach him in Congress. But North Korea this weekend again said, I have the nuclear button, Kim Jong-un, on my desk. I think I'm going to go ahead and blow you up first. And our number one job is more weapons and more missiles, and we're going to get you. And it's just crazy. He's got a gun pointed at us saying, I'm going to get you. I'm going to kill you. I'm going to attack you, because he believes that the Clintons and the globalists that gave him the reactors and the weapons through China behind the scenes are backing him to scuttle America and to be the shield, the foil, the gambit, again, as the trigger in that area of the world. So this is all about blocking the U.S. pivot. It's all about isolating the United States, and Trump is meeting it strong with force up front. And this is the time to be praying for peace and for clearer heads and for somebody to take out Kim Jong-un. The best thing to happen is China's got people in there. China needs to realize the U.S. isn't playing games. They need to get rid of Kim Jong-un. They need to reform that hellhole, because you can't put the North Koreans in a worse position. And I get the sanctions hurt them as well, but they're already in a living hell under a demonic demon in a society of pure Satanism. And so what a pathetic, there has never been a more comical, stupid-looking, weak, blubbery, hardly walk, nobody, raised in a Swiss boarding school, just little demonic creature feeding on the blood of those people. Okay, thank you so much, caller. Rick is back. Ricky is back. Again, the phone got disconnected somehow. So, Ricky, go ahead. Sorry you got cut off.
Hey, it's all right, Alex. It's all right. I understand. I'm reading from the book of the Kingdom of Cults, 1997 issue, and it was regarding that Turkey issue where they're now allowing 9-year-olds to marry and have kids. And I like to just quote this real quick. On page 615 of that issue, it says, at 25, Muhammad married a wealthy 42-year-old widow named Khadijah after she proposed to him. Muhammad remained with Khadijah for 25 years and had 2 sons who died in infancy and 4 daughters. After Khadijah died in 619 or 620, Muhammad married a widow of a disciple and a 7-year-old who moved in with him when she was 10. Aisha was her name.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I just wanted to bring that up just for all these people who are following Islam and stuff like that. They need to realize and do their research to whom they're really following.
Well, I'm glad you raised that point, because it's on Infowars.com and Newswars.com. And everybody should retweet this from Real Alex Jones. Turkish state institution says girls can marry and get pregnant at age 9. And that's because he got Isha pregnant at age 9. And then she moved in with him at 10 when she had the baby. And so Islamic religion body follows Muhammad's lead. And yes, Turkey has cloaked itself as anti-radical. But now that they're expanding into Europe, they're now basically going pure Wahhabist with Erdogan and the rest of it. And they're announcing 80% military-age men going in to colonize. And the leaders are saying, we're colonizing Europe. And Erdogan has said, we're going to bring down Europe. In fact, if you don't fully capitulate, we'll burn Europe down. He said that about 6 months ago. So this is what the globalists and the EU has done. They're working with the Islamists to collapse Europe and have this total takeover. And it's really happening. I'm not against the average Muslim. And there's been reform Muslims, you name it. But that's the reason the pedophiles like the radical forms of Islam, because they have harems of children they have sex with, harems of kidnapped women. Women have absolutely no rights. And that's why they have George Soros, Linda Sarsour, the Islamicist, whose mother writes books about every woman must have her genitals cut off and how wonderful it is. That's why she leads the feminists in America, not Gloria Steinem, who wants women to kill their babies and be enslaved as well. They've just brought someone even better, the Islamicist Linda Sarsour. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, we can't let that spread over here to the United States. I thank God Trump's putting a stop to this, and I couldn't understand why Obama was giving all that money to Iran and doing this. I was like, what the hell? Isn't he supposed to be for the United States? It's just total insanity. I'm pro-Israel, and I believe that God has his hand on InfoWars, and he's using you guys mightily, and I just want to thank you guys, okay?
Thank you. God bless you, my friend. And again, it's not that Israel's perfect or we're perfect or anything. There is a global evil. George Soros in the WikiLeaks wants to destroy Israel. He admits it. I mean, it's here, and people are going to have to decide which side they're on, because there's the globalist side that infects every country, every nation, black, white, old, young, German, Jewish, Muslim, it doesn't matter, atheist. And then there's people that want justice. And it doesn't mean we're perfect, but we're not out for war. We're not out to kill children. We're not out to engage in the sexualization of children and all the rest of this. So great points, Ricky. God bless you. Glad you got that out. That's just one of the incredible stories. I didn't even get into connecting it to the biggest paper in London coming out and publishing a child sex manual with images of little girls masturbating. We'll be right back. Stay with us. The globalists are coming out of the closet with their pedophilia, their Satan worship, and their world government in 2018. Trying to cover it up hadn't helped, so they have the Metro paper, the biggest paper in London, Millions a week go out. Let's look at their circulation. I know it's one of the biggest papers in the world. Publishing a sex manual on how to teach your kids how to have sex with images of little girls. I'm not going to even say on air the things they're doing. They've pulled it down, though. It's been up for 2 days, since the 31st, 2.5 days, but they pulled it right after we started covering it. Meanwhile, Swedish church worships gender-fluid Jesus. Jesus has feminine qualities, claims church officials. That's right. He is a hermaphrodite, basically. Hermaphroditic is actually what the Satanists worship. But there you go, ladies and gentlemen. We'll be covering that coming up. UN chief calls for unity against nationalism and so much more. And remember, next year's News Today, we told you in 2016 that the New York Times was giving Hillary all of her talking points and warning her about stories because it was in the WikiLeaks. So was CNN, MSNBC. But Snopes said it wasn't true. Well, more came out by WikiLeaks on Friday. And it's totally confirmed it all in triplicate. Yet again, that's up on Infowars.com. But right now, let's go back to your phone calls. Let's go to Tim, UFOs. Wants to talk about UFOs in the news. Go ahead from Illinois.
Hey, Alex. Happy New Year, man.
You too, brother.
Hey, what I was thinking is this is kind of a mix of sex traffic and UFOs. What I'm thinking is with Trump, closing in on all the human rights crimes and sex trafficking and all that, you got this Tom DeLonge out there that's got CIA that's they brought in to work with him, and everybody's like, well, where are they disclosing right now? And I'm thinking possibly that it's they're going to use these to block some of the things that Trump's going to bring about here coming shortly.
Oh, yeah. I mean, Trump is risking his life big time, but here's the deal. They were going to bring us into total civil war, world government, banning free speech, truly breaking America's back. So a lot of the people in the government and agencies aren't even angels. They just aren't for destroying everything and having everything be a hellhole. So the last phase, people finally at the edge of the cliff, or as we walk the plank into, rabies-ridden piranhas, we were drawn back from the precipice, and that's now why you see suddenly prosperity and optimism pouring back in, because we were artificially being held under the water like a beach ball. All Trump had to do is get their hands off of us. He's only got one hand off of them, and they're now trying to hold the ball under, but it's about to crest, and so they are in full panic. But we told you he was going after the pedophiles, and he did, record arrest. Now an executive order going after the foundations and groups like the Clintons that have been caught shipping in kids from different areas of the Caribbean and Latin America, and it's real. I mean, I talked to high-level CIA right after Trump got elected, and they said, no, you're dead on about Hillary. They've got the info, but it's so horrible that if it's brought out, it'll destroy the country, but we're going to go ahead and try to clean it up and end it and stop it. And they're not just pedophiles. They control people with pedophilia and trafficking in children, because it's so horrible. They can always use it because it's so horrible. No one even wants it to come out because it would just bring everything down. It would destroy the country. See, that's how they corrupt it. It's like they took over the Catholic Church with pedophiles. They know what they're doing, and then they corrupt it. Then it's got to be kept secret. Then they get in more of the pedophiles, more of the devil worshippers, and pretty soon they've got control. Anything else, sir?
Yeah, I just.
Well, stay there. I want to get to your point about all that UFO news was obviously put out as a distraction from the Trump agenda. We'll be right back, but I want to get your take on that straight ahead. Infowars.com. Spread that link. Newswars.com. PrisonPlanet.com. They hate it when you do it. They hate it. Coming up at the bottom of the hour, Dr. Steve Pieczenik was involved trying to stop the overthrow of Iran and the Mullah Revolution. And he resigned out of the Carter administration, was later brought back by other administrations over whatever behind-the-scenes deals were made. It's all extremely classified. It's all Iran-Contra stuff. And Piecenik's talked about stuff here on the air where he's been called into court. The FBI's come to his house. It's been in the newspapers. And so some of the stuff he does talk about is very, very dangerous because he was running a lot of those operations with General Schumacher and General Boykin, and then on into the Reagan administration, and then in George Herbert Walker Bush. But he wants to talk about Iran. what's really going on there. He was against the Syria war and was supportive of the Russians and the U.S. 5 years ago, making a behind-the-scenes deal, neutralizing Obama, and deciding not to back the Wahhabists. But at the same time, then it made Obama pivot and start backing Iran. So to get into whatever this grand strategy is, we'll try to break it down, because the revolution happening in Iran right now, that Pachenik says he's not being backed by the president. He's just verbally supporting it, but is not activating people there on the ground. And that Pachenik wants to do a call on air. I basically talked just a few minutes this morning for the U.S. to get more involved. I'm going to see what he has to say about this. I don't like nation building. I don't like it. But at the same time, I know that was behind the deal stuff with some globalists and the French and others to help put the Ayatollah Khomeini in there. And so there's some real third and fourth and fifth dimensional chess stuff going on here. And I've got a pretty good idea what it is, but we'll see if Pachenik will go there. Because, see, I'm not involved with any agencies, and I've never worked for any agency. I've just studied all this, how it works. But I can see what's going on and how it's happening. The problem is I get people on that have all these security clearances and all these secrets. Then if I just say it and they even agree, then it's considered that they've just given out a national secret. That's how you get next year's News Today. Because I've done my homework, and I know how this works. And once you've studied it long enough, they just do the same stuff over and over and over again. And finally, when it was announced we're going to just get rid of Christianity, bring in tens of millions of Muslims every year, break up families, sexualize children, people went, you mean Alex Jones and all these people were right? This is in the military and mid-level and the agencies and corporations. They went, really? No. Nobody's going to teach my 5-year-old granddaughter how to, give fellatio. No, we're not. You mean you really are putting estrogen in the water and the food? And enough people, have grandkids and kids that are autistic now. Really woke Trump up. Barron got better, but lack of vitamin D in utero, fluoride in utero, and then you give them the vaccines, it can kill you. So Trump isn't trying to carry out a eugenics operation. See, the authoritarianism was sold in that there's too many people. It's going to hit 15 billion. It's projected by 2020. This is back in the 60s, out of the Royal Commission from 59. The second Royal Commission. The first Royal Commission was 49. And the entire British Empire government got behind this. That's why you hear Prince Philip talk about get rid of everybody, and Prince Charles Charles's other moron son, the prince of whatever moronic idiocy he is. What's that moron's name? I forget. And that's why he shot his mouth off about get rid of the population. How about you go first? Okay, you parasite. And the decision was made to dumb everybody down and then put chemicals in the food and water to lower fertility. But it was a triple cross because they weren't really doing it to the third world. They were doing it to the West, which the globalists saw as their competition from a racist perspective, IQ and culture-wise, which I don't even really buy into, but they do. I think a lot of it is nurture, not just the nature. But you can't argue that the scientific developments and the IQs and things in Northern Europe and all that are the highest in the world. But you can argue the IQ test and all the rest. But the point is they buy into all that. The decision was made. They told the mid-level white racist in people, we're doing this worldwide government program to control and kill off the third world. But they really triple-crossed and began killing off everybody in the West, as you can now see, and attacking that, then bring in giant third world hordes, use them to devolve everything even faster, then get the remaining people in the West to accept a global exterminist program to then finally wipe out the third world. But that way you wipe out the West and you wipe out the third world, and then you merge with machines and become immortal. Now, I read enough of their writings that were thinly veiled to come up with that approximation about 18 years ago, and then to sum it up in the endgame 10 years ago, or 11 years ago now. And you can see that that's now been proven right. They've now announced, we are going to have AI gods. We're going to get rid of all of you. It's a good thing. You're evil. You're bad. It's kind of this existential metaphoric thing where it's kind of like in the background, like, aren't you good? You accept you're bad and want to die, right? Yeah, we need to start aborting people, and we don't want to pay for old people, and we don't want to pay for preemies, and we need bioethics boards to get rid of everybody. And yeah, the Watson computer will decide what troops have to take care of at the VA. And, that's just, it's all science. It's all computers. It's fine. We'll all get more free stuff if we kill other people that are getting too much free stuff. You idiot. You've already gone into the free stuff trap. So I told you this was their plan. Now it's here. Jack Sprat could eat no fat. His wife could eat no lean. So between them both, they licked the platter clean. You understand? They're going to kill everybody. And you could have two globalists left at the upper echelons of this power structure, and they would fight over the Lochnar, to use a heavy metal analogy. It's my Lochnar. No, it's mine. So you know where this devil plan goes. It's the same program that gets run on all these elites throughout history. And they always build the systems of their own destruction because they're going to finally be made whole once they do this ritual, once they get this technology, once they've knocked out all their enemies. And then all they do is build their own destruction. So that's why they're bringing out the UFO stuff and all the rest of it, which is, we know they've got aircraft for 50 years that do the stuff that these jets are seeing. And these fighter pilots are like flying 1950s technology. Yeah. And they think maybe 1960s with the avionics and stuff. And then they see the whole black budget stuff and they're like, what is that? It's making, 180-degree turns and stuff because it's our technology. I'm not saying there's other stuff out there. I know, okay? I know. I was going to meet at a hotel with a guy who was on the main mission for Mars, Raymond Teague, and he died. And he could never get himself. He had national letters at his house from the president. He was in covert operations in Cambodia and Laos and stuff, running high-tech stuff in Vietnam. Then he was on the main NASA mission. He was early in Vietnam. And a great guy, engineer. And he could never get it out. And then some threats and things happened, so he shut up about it. And then he would say, well, I'm going to go ahead and tell you. I'm going to go ahead and tell you. His friends of my dad, too, and he could never get it out. But he just said, what we already know, there's a whole breakaway civilization of technology. And it's 30, 40, 50 years ahead. I mean, the SR-71 Blackbird was in service in 1955. It was developed in 1949. It's the fastest plane in the world. It looks like a spaceship. It's not the fastest plane in the world, okay? And that's why that little fat goblin over there, Trump, that's why he said, get ready for the secrets of the universe. Trump is thinking about just going, okay, here's our stuff. And we know you got a bunch of fancy stuff too, Russians and Chinese, but we're way ahead of you, so look out. We got more of the Nazis than you did. And just saying, here it is. They had hit one button. Everybody in North Korea would be dead in 5 minutes. And there'd be no radiation, nothing left after that. Everybody would just be dead. They've got antimatter weapons that'll blow the whole solar system up now. You know they've got weapons that'll create black holes. That's even been declassified. You know they've got fission, fusion, everything. And again, it's that Atlantis moment. Why not just tell everybody? Why not just admit it? Why not launch the space bases, do it all, stop creating slugs, stop creating weak people, stop incentivizing people to be jellyfish so a bunch of greedy globalists can have all the technology for themselves because they don't want to give it to other people. You will never transcend with that type of behavior and spirit. It puts a ghost into the machine that will always make it predatory and will destroy whoever attempts it. I promise I'm going to Tim. I wanted to get into that. And Carlos and Nicholas and Jay and Scott and Marcus and Brian and everybody. Bam, 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 straight ahead. Get ready to make your points. Infowars.com. We'll be right back. So Trump has signaled this, just revealing what's going on in the government and declassifying a lot of secret technologies, not just for warfare, but communications, energy, propulsion, you name it. A whole new renaissance if these technologies are deployed to the people, not doled out slowly to the technocracy and to communist China. And one of the crew members said of the SR-71 Blackbird, decommissioned in the 90s, developed in the late 40s, deployed in the mid-50s, isn't the fastest plane in the world, as they still claim it is. What is? And the answer is, that's highly classified. And only people involved know about it, but we know that there's an array of space planes and other fast aircraft that go up to the edge of space and can get to the other side of the planet in about an hour and a half to drop different types of payloads. Do you use Sabo rounds, particle beam delivery, hydrogen bomb delivery, and all sorts of other stuff. So it's pretty crazy. With half the world's defense budget in the last 80 years, 70 years or so, the United States has really really done some interesting things, and it's all been basically taken by the globalists. Trump's trying to take that back right now. Tim, go ahead and finish your point. You wanted to say UFOs in the news recently to distract from Trump?
Yeah, Alex, I just think Trump has done so many things to shed light that the cabal's probably ready to go to a plan B or C. And they could use that in the mainstream media to outshine anything Trump does. Everything. I mean, Trump's he's disclosed so many things, and I know he's going to disclose more. And they need a plan B or C in the media to outshine him. And I wonder if they could be using this to draw him into it, and maybe to use it against him later. Possibly, if he comments on UFOs, could that become he's crazy? I
think your gut's right. It's almost like they put that out, obviously from a bureaucracy he doesn't control. He's only got like 5% control of the government at this point. It's already turned things around halfway. But exactly, they're leaking all this stuff, maybe trying to get him to say something about it to make him look more like he's crazy. But, a bunch of presidents talked about UFOs. And that's just a fact. So we're out here in space. There's a lot of stuff going on. It's a very interesting time to be alive. I appreciate your call. And, of course, Hillary Clinton's campaign chair, John Podesta, is obsessed with UFOs and aliens. He was the chairman of Hillary Clinton's presidential campaign. So they're all into this stuff. They know what's going on. They don't want the public to know. And that's why they're just beside themselves right now with what Trump's up to. They are so upset because they've got a big plan. And whatever it is, the devil, whatever the spirit is, whatever it is that they get their ideas from, build a world government, make humans obsolete, poison them, dumb them down, reduce their numbers, and then we get to live forever. I mean, that's the plot of childhood's end. These people are crazy. All right, who's up next here? Oh, Nicholas. I noticed Nicholas was calling from Germany, so I'll go to him next, and we'll go to Carlos and others. Carlos, you're on the air. Thanks for... Nicholas first, sorry. Nicholas in Germany, you're on the air. Go ahead.
Mr. Jones?
Hey, buddy.
Thanks for letting me in. First of all, Merry Christmas. It was a little late for y'all. I celebrate two of them. I celebrate on the new calendar and the old calendar with the Russians. There's some movies about that where the Germans set down their guns and they celebrated with the English. Well, it's all these banks that are trying to get Christians to kill each other anyways.
Well, that's right. Isn't the Russian Christmas starts now?
Well, yeah, on the 7th, sure. And, well, I wanted to be humble, first of all, and thank you all for all the wonderful work you've been doing, and I hope that this new year brings health and success and every good, profitable thing. And you asked a question about, a lot of things I think I had myself. When you said that we're kind of coming out of this haze or this fog or kind of, I think a lot of us, that you were spot on with that. And, I mean, there's also been, the language has somewhat been hijacked in some ways. There's true multiculturalism and false multiculturalism. There's true globalism and false globalism. In terms of the fact that, working with different people from, what we're trying to do, Lord willing, would be a true form, a true new renaissance.
The international man, the international woman, real, people working together, unilaterally, country by country, group by group, people coming in who were vetted and good and adding their great ideas and the hybrid vigor of people coming together. We need to come together, but not forcefully under the globalist control to turn us against each other artificially and then have a global system over us. Absolutely. Everything out there, the globalists are a counterfeit of. That's what their system is. You're absolutely right.
Right. Well, what I was getting at, where were we at? So, yeah, I know we don't have a lot of time, but you asked the questions also for the sake of time and humility about Mr. Comey, the tax cuts, and the companies coming back. First of all, I'm a pastor and united with the Eastern Church. And the way we see it, or the way I see it, in the West, a lot of our people think that, all these Middle Eastern countries were Islamic countries, Egypt, Syria.
No, they were all once Christian. They were all once Christian.
Yeah, with Byzantium and our country, our beloved homeland. We helped with Standard Oil given the Turks Smyrna in Greece. You know, we had the deal with Kosovo where, you know, they bombed our U.S. Navy. I'm a Navy vet myself, bombed a church on Easter Sunday, and we gave that country to Muslims. Now,
and by the way, there's not a Russian conspiracy, but there is an Eastern Orthodox movement of people that see it being more Christian now and fighting Islamicism. And I'm seeing a huge move online, but in person, of people who were never associated with the Eastern Orthodox Church into it, seeing that it fought off the Islamicists in some areas, and that now that the West won't do it, so there's a migration culturally into that right now.
Well, I'm not trying to get into any dogmatic.
No, I mean I'm not either. But you're a U.S. Navy veteran, and I mean now you're you know, and now you're in the Orthodox Church, or were you previously?
I'm saying that's where you're going. I mean, I'm saying I'm tempted to do that, but I'm going to try to refrain from that and talk about, you know, Christmas. God became man so that man might become God, and the Christians that have suffered the most. A lot of these tycoons, they would like us certainly to kill each other. You know, that's the plan: distract and kill us.
Well, that's right. And, you know, I should do a whole presentation where I explain the years that Islam spread in the last 1,400 plus years and show how it starts in Medina and then it spreads all over the world and takes over Christian areas and always wants more. And the Pope saying, let everybody in, give in to Islam. But he doesn't tell Islam, let Christians and Jews come into your area. No. He sells the globalist plan because he's there to destroy Christendom.
Indeed. And you know what's funny is a lot of people say, how do we respond to this type of charlatan, right? Because that's what he is. And I was thinking about a tactful, graceful way to respond to it. But I will have to give respect to the president of Russia. After he met with the Pope, he said, I'm not sure if that man's even a Christian. And that was it.
I remember that. He said, he's not a Christian.
That was hilarious.
The Pope is the leader of the pedophiles that took over the Catholic Church with blackmail. And his deputy pope's just been arrested for trafficking 100+ little boys. Listen, the Pope is a devil worshiper, period. He is literally a top demon sitting in the Vatican right now. I mean, there is no doubt. And almost every Catholic I know knows that. I mean, it is unbelievable. God bless you. We'll be right back. Stay with us. We are back live, broadcasting worldwide. Paul Joseph Watson is going to join me as we co-host in the 4th hour from London, England. He's always got a ton of really incredibly important information to cover. I wanted to make sense of what's happening over in Iran, some of the biggest protests and demonstrations, and now dozens and dozens shot by the mullahs, police that enforce the dictatorship. I don't want war with Iran. I think the Persians are great people, but they are very, very unpopular, the mullahs. But we've seen a lot of attempts at regime change. Well, Dr. Steve Pieczenik was involved way back when the country first fell and trying to reverse some of those problems. So he'll give us his expert take on that in just a moment, and we'll continue on with your phone calls. But before we go any further, but where can you see something that's paid off with tax cuts and sovereignty and exposing globalism and exposing political correctness? InfoWars is recognized by House Intelligence, Senate Intelligence, House Armed Services Committee hearings as the #1 enemy of the globalists. I mean, that's what they say in the hearings, that we're the #1 enemy. We've got to be shut down. They have executives up there saying, we censored them at lunch. We saw their story was the top story. We're censoring it right now. The London Metro, biggest paper in London, put out a child sex manual teaching people how to have sex with children or how to give them sex toys and images of little girls masturbating and everything. That was up 2.5 days ago. We covered it today. They took it down in 30 minutes. Even quicker than that. Okay, so I'm not bragging. They see us as highly disruptive to their operations. They want to just put that out and then people think it's normal. And nobody challenged it. They went, whoa, it got challenged. Pull it. We see this all the time. So just like they took over the Vatican with these whole pedophile networks, that's the plan here. And that's why Pakistan, that's why Turkey's announcing sex with 9-year-olds to be legal. This is their cult. This is what they're into. This is why radical Islam and the whole globalist thing get along together, because they're a bunch of selfish, authoritarian, foaming at the mouth demons like the deputy pope who had to resign for trafficking over 100 little boys. So there's all the information for you. This is literally an army of pure scum. We don't need to dehumanize our enemy. They are the filthiest, most degenerate combine of scum the planet has ever seen. Totally selfish, totally wicked. Now I'm going to stop ranting. Thank you for your support. Now, joining us Joining us is Dr. Steve Pieczenik, former head of psychological operations at the State Department. Then, of course, worked in regime change in many nations. He's on record doing that. And he also, he just joined us. He's a best-selling author and wrote some books with Tom Clancy, produced some major movies. And he's got a bunch of different degrees from Harvard, MIT. I'm not going to get into all of it. But he is an expert on Iran, Central Asia, but also the Middle East, and has met many of these leaders, from Assad's dad to you name it. And he was involved in a bunch of things with Jimmy Carter and right through with Reagan and Bush Sr. in this area, and was involved in the founding of Delta Force and that whole situation that unfolded. And so I don't know how much he can get into, but he wants to get into a lot today. So I wanted to just cut right to the chase, because we have limited time, about what's currently happening in Iran and why he thinks regime change is good. He didn't support regime change in Syria, so I don't see him as a warmonger, but I want to know why he sees it as good there and why he thinks we should back what's happening. I certainly don't back CNN, who backs the mullahs. I mean, I was more neutral. I don't like dictatorships, but I don't want to get in new wars. But why did Obama back Iran so much then, and how has the calculus changed? So, Dr. Steve Pieczenik, thanks for joining us.
Oh, it's my pleasure, and thank you for having me on. The calculus changed very quickly when the young people of Iran. Now, you have to understand how many young people we're talking about. The Iran right now, 50% of its multi-million population, 50% are under the age of 30. You got to think about that. Of those 30 million, you have 40% who are unemployed. So you have 40% of your entire population unemployed who are below the age of 30. And what happened instead? The mullah and Ayatollah Khamenei, the son of Ayatollah Khomeini, whom I had walked to work with, and eventually ended up in his house in Iran, Khamenei and President Rouhani have both been indicted by the children on the streets as being corrupt, which is absolutely correct. And this is the first revolution I have seen that has been so effective, so spontaneous, without our intervention, because our CIA in the past, 50 years ago under Carter, they blew it. And as a result of the fact that our CIA 50 years ago, Colby and Helms and the others, didn't know anything about the fact that the Shah had cancer of the jaw and for 4 years was treated by the French, made it typical of the problems we had running covert operations in Iran those years. Now, we don't run effective covert operations, but what happened is a spontaneous eruption among all these young people, which resulted from one kind of software. It was called Telegraph application, which is a highly sophisticated software developed by two Russian brothers, I believe it's Dulov. Nico can look it up. And now this is literally a fight between youth and old age and senility. This is literally the fight that we've been looking for, you and I and the InfoWar warriors, between freedom, self-determination, and an arcane theological system that never had an application to Persia. Persia was never a Muslim country.
So Dr. Pieczenik, just briefly, and then we'll continue on.
Sure.
What you're saying is this whole thing in the air of globalism in trouble, Hollywood in trouble, the NFL, the establishment, the Vatican, all these corrupt institutions, real revolutions in the air, and that just as we see globalism being voted out all over the world and all these new countries, Sweden, you name it, there's been even so much troubles now talking about getting out of the EU, so many other countries doing it. You're saying this is legitimate in Iran and part of the human soul wanting to be free.
Correct. Not only is it legitimate, but it literally could be said that it's an extension of what you, I, and many others in the United States have been saying. We want freedom. They're not only calling for the overthrow of Khamenei, they're calling for the death of Khamenei and the death of Rouhani, who supposedly is a progressive prime minister. Now, this is typical of what you saw in Catalan. This is typical of what we're seeing when we're fighting pedophilia. By the way, let me add a key word. I knew the Pope Francis, who I find is despicable, as the head of the Jesuits in the late 1970s, and he worked then and collaborated with the death of the colonels who killed our nuns, 3-4 nuns, and tortured several of our Jesuits. At that time, I asked the Secretary of State to come down and literally try to take him out because he was a co-conspirator in the death of American nuns, and he never admitted to it. His rise to the top is the rise of collusion, despicableness, cowardliness, and the fact that the higher church is totally corrupt with pedophilia. And the Archbishop Law, who was spotlighted in the movie Spotlight, was only buried a few days ago as an honorary member of the Vatican. So you see, these institutions are going down. Similarly, the Ayatollah Khamenei, the son of Khomeini, is being brought down by the students.
This is powerful. This is a part of the global storm against tyranny. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Newswars.com, prisonplanet.com, and Infowars.com. Critical, again, the articles, the videos, so much we haven't gotten into, so many powerful videos, powerful pieces of news are on the site we haven't even covered. Paul Watson's coming up the next hour to get to a lot of it, more of your phone calls as well. I'm going to get to you right now. Dr. Steve Pieczenik, again, is somebody that was involved deeply in Iran, you know, the whole 45 years since all this has been unfolding or so, with the Shah and the cancer and the Ayatollah and all of that. What are we facing right now? What's happening over there? And why are you so excited about what's going on? And if it is a good thing, how do we support it?
I think we support it the way you've been doing it. I can't speak on behalf of the government. I think Donald Trump did a very good job when he tweeted that the people of Iran need freedom, and they need food, and they need jobs. I think that was an important impetus for the young people to go back into the streets. Now, you have to understand, Iran is very large. And with all of these young people, with 40% unemployment, thousands and thousands of young people demonstrated in the streets of Tehran, Isfahan, Mashhad. This is all over Iran, using the internet and social media, and I'm sure they listen to us. They are going out and asking for the overthrow of the regime. Now, from my point of view, I would love if our covert operators or Pompeo or others, I don't want to name them, come in and help out these young people. I can't speak on their behalf, but this is the time, a key moment in history that I've been waiting for. When it happened in 2009, Obama and his ineffectual National Security Council with Susan Rice and Ben Rhodes, a novelist, foreign policy expert, in other words, totally inept people, didn't really know how to respond to this. And instead, the New York Times and others have warned Trump not to say anything. I say the reverse. I say he should encourage them. I think he should say very clearly that if they are harmed in any way, there will be accountability for this. Because the regime is not a legitimate regime. It was done and overthrown thanks to the incompetence of our own people in the CIA, in the military, and elsewhere who had no idea what was going on. For me, the reason I called you up and you were so gracious was the fact that I had waited for this for 40, 50 years to see them break out in the rural areas of Iran and say, we want Khomeini gone, dead. I mean, you don't say that normally, and for that, you can go to prison. But what's really happening is, for the first time, that young children who are unemployed are fighting their very own security system called the IRG, the Iran Revolutionary Guard, which created this false corporation, which is called the Spear of the Prophet. That's nonsense. It's like the Chinese have a front company, which is run for the People's Liberation Army, and that false front takes up all the contracts, hundreds of millions of billions of dollars of foreign contracts that come into Iran, and it's never given out to any of these young people, and they've had it. This is not an ideological movement from the world movement. This is really a sui generis from Iran. It is very typical Persian. Now, I go back to the days when Mossadegh, who was the prime minister in the 50s, tried to nationalize their own oil business away from the British. And it was unfortunately Winston Churchill and the incompetent presidents that we had at the time.
Sure, Operation Ajax. What would have happened if we wouldn't have launched Operation Ajax and left us alone?
We wouldn't have had the problem of the Shah. We wouldn't have had Soleimani. We wouldn't have had all these years of killing and the wars in the Middle East with the Iranian Revolutionary Guard under Soleimani, who, by the way, Soleimani claims he's a Muslim. He's a Jew. He knows that. He said it for a long time. There are many Muslims there who were really converted Jews in order to stay alive, particularly in the area of Isfahan, which is an ancient city.
Sure, well, let's expand on that. Is it true that Israel's been green-lighted by Trump to take out the head of the Iranian National Guard?
Well, I don't know that. I mean, honestly, I don't think Israel could take out the head of the National Guard. I think Israel right now, quite frankly, has its own internal problem, which is the reverse of what's happening in Iran. Bibi is totally impotent because he is politically and judicially incarcerated. He's been indicted for corruption. And unlike any other country in the world, Israel has no problems indicting, convicting, and sending to prison their prime minister. And that's where Bibi is at this
they do it all the time. Let me raise this point to you. Geopolitically, the different players right now, just pulling back from this, what are you expecting to see with North Korea? What are you expecting to see with the things that are going on with Israel? The latest on Syria, McMaster reportedly trying to reconstitute some ISIS people that Trump reportedly doesn't even know about in areas of Syria to rebrand them because they want to still break up Syria. I mean, how's all that going?
None of that's going to happen. McMaster's in the White House. I think he's got that's what he's going to do. It's wrong. He knows he's heading in for self-destruction. That won't happen. That's not going to happen. Syria is reconstituted without McMaster and actually without America. As I said to you months ago, and I warned years ago on your show, we would lose that war in Syria, and we did. And thanks to you, Syria, Bashar, and the Russians are taking over. McMaster has no influence whatsoever. So Russia will take over along with Syria, along with Israel, along with the Sunni countries. They're coming in and to reconstitute the country of Syria.
Sure, and by the way, nothing against the tank commander, but I've read his writings. They don't seem very sophisticated. How is this a chief strategist in the White House if he's a tank driver?
Well, let me put it this way. I've been disappointed. I don't think he has the psychological insights that he needed. I've trained many soldiers at Fort McNair in Washington, D.C. For the most part, I find that in the military and all of our units in all the military, other than in Delta Force and Special Forces, they have zero training in psychology, zero training in national character, zero training in knowing how to manipulate psychological variables or national variables. So the military is deficient in a very important element of world dynamics, which is psychopolitical dynamics and national character. Yet we have 18 different intelligence units which are spending billions of dollars and still have no idea of predictive capacity, whereas you and I can predict what's going to happen. Russia will take over Syria. The Turks will come in and rebuild along with Russia. The United States will be secondary. We moved into Africa, which I think is a very big mistake. And the reason for that
let me ask this question. Why did Obama back Iran, and we now know, help them run drugs and money laundering for a resupply operation of weapons? I mean, it's one thing to let the Contras, to fight the Contras, or have the Contras fight the Sandinistas to let them sell drugs in the U.S., which is terrible and horrible. But let the Hezbollah sell drugs in the United States for Iran? I mean, this is crazy.
Well, it's not only crazy, it's very consistent with John Brennan and Obama. Remember what I said, Obama was the black baby of the CIA. He was never in anything else other than an operation in a very ineffectual way, very poorly trained. His background is a total lie. I mean, he says he went to Columbia, never went to Columbia, went to Occidental College, which is a CIA repository for ex-agents, and went on to Harvard on affirmative action. He basically was not bright. He basically was not highly tutored. The irony was he sounded as if he were bright, and he had a lot of the words. But between Brennan and him and the Catholics in Action, we had a very stupid, corrupt organization. The truth of the matter is Hezbollah, run by Nasrallah, whom I've known about, and I've worked against Hezbollah and with Hezbollah, are far smarter than our people in the White House. As a matter of fact, with Hezbollah members, they offered me the opportunity to work with their fruit shops and all of their other underground private enterprises, which had nothing to do with drugs. And I warned the Israelis, would you like to meet the Hezbollah? And Israelis were afraid. They had no idea. And I warned the Israelis, you go up against Hezbollah, you're going to lose 30-1 men every time you go up. And the Israelis went into southern Lebanon,
and that happened.
Lost 166.
Yeah. No, folks, notice the time we have then, okay, well then, but that's who the Iranian youth are up against in their own country. The Persians are more organized. I mean, it sounds like a suicide mission for them.
Well, every revolution, including yours, mine, and our founding fathers, was basically a suicide mission, or a mission where we had to put our lives on the line. That's why it's called the revolution. And evolution means we're going to transfer the power very nicely. In the case of Iran, there will be violence. There is no other way around it. There was violence when they came in under Mossadegh. When the Shah of Iran was put in, there was violence when the Ayatollah Khamenei came in, overthrew our embassy. There was violence now when we'll overthrow. Hopefully we can overthrow Ayatollah Khamenei and Rouhani and the IRG, because they are totally corrupt. Now, if Trump is behind this, I would hope that he would send the proper individuals, and that's not necessarily McMaster's. That would be somebody like Pompeo and others who they can trust to help all these. All
right, Doc, thank you so much. StevePieczenik.com. Thank you so much. We'll talk to you soon. Let's go to break. We'll be right back. We got a bunch of callers and Paul Watson coming up, so I appreciate people holding, but I had Dr. Pieczenik on to break down what's happening in Iran. And for my own research on it, he was giving you some really good, accurate, pragmatic information just about where things stand. And then, of course, the corrupt Pope being basically a globalist operative and using pedophilia to control people, to take control of the Vatican. You just heard Pieczenik talk about that. And he worked in the CIA, obviously, there, dealing with all of that. These are just monstrous individuals we're dealing with that have hijacked almost every area of the world. But you see it all getting exposed. So it's an amazing time to be alive right now. But I got to talk to Paul in the next segment. I cannot believe that the biggest newspaper in London published basically a sex manual and has images of little girls having orgasms. I mean, I can't, it's worse than that. I can't even say it on air with an adult radio show. And it just shows it's all next level. And maybe we shouldn't even show all of it. It's just incredible. And it's got images of little kids having sex and things. And that's all any of this is. This is so sick. This is so evil. So let's go to your phone calls here. Who's been holding the longest here? Angel in Alaska. We got Sam in Mexico. We got so many people. Let's go to Angie in Alaska. Angie in Alaska. I said saw Angel. Go ahead, Angie. You're on the air. Going north to Alaska.
Fantastic. I think it's awesome. And I also want to talk about immigration, how we're having immigrants from the Middle East come over to America, and they are getting our young girls and marrying them within like 3 months, promising them all sorts of wonderful things, and then taking them back to the Middle East where we all know that they won't be safe. I'm wondering if we could possibly back Trump some more on immigration and protecting our young women. Well,
yeah, no, in the Middle East, women are like animals. In North Africa, they're sold as animals, but no one ever points out it's Islam doing it. And you're absolutely right that that's going on a mass scale. I mean, I got articles right here where Turkey is legalizing sex with 9-year-old girls.
It makes me sick. It absolutely makes me sick.
But you're not being liberal. I mean, the Metro newspaper says you should give your small children sex toys, and then has images of little girls. I can't even say it on air.
Up here in Alaska, about 3 days ago, I got a call from a young girl who said that her friend had met, and I'm sure she met him online, somebody from the Middle East, who married her within 3 months. He never stayed at her house. They never did anything. All of a sudden now he wants to take her down to Texas with his brother and his father. And we tried everything to keep her up here in Alaska so that she would be safe. I know she's not going to be safe.
Well, no, that's a lot of these women end up in slave harems. They get them out of Europe, you name it, usually teenage girls. Then they fly them out and they're never seen again. And then they make them have sex with like 50 people a day and stuff. And then once they get diseases and stuff, are pregnant, they just take them out and blow their heads off. But that's liberal. So, I mean, why are you against liberalism? Why are you against empowering women? Linda Sorcer cares about you.
I'm against the Middle Eastern men coming and taking.
Well, I mean, it is well known that that's what they do. I mean, that's Kosovo's main business is grabbing little Serb girls and selling them off. But that's liberal. I mean, they're Christian girls. They deserve to be shipped in, in gang rape for 10 years and have their heads blown off.
Well, they can keep their liberalism right where they have it, because I don't want it coming to the United States. I want to protect our young people.
We're going to take care of your women now. Like the Mahdi of Jerusalem said, we go to Europe, they are weak. We will take their women. We're going to take our women. They will come here. They will live in chains with hoods on head. We will chop their genitals off so they get no pleasure. The pleasure is for us men, not for the subhuman women who have no genes. Remember, that's what the Young Turks said. Women are subhuman. Women don't have good genes. Young Turk, I teach you. I teach you good, women. We liberal. We funded by Gulf State. Ladies and gentlemen, I am your host, Alex Jones. We just had a lady calling from Alaska talking about young teenage girls getting roped in online by Islamicists and, being basically disappeared. And I wasn't being sarcastic about it to be mean about it. I was doing it to illustrate how horrific the trafficking of women out of the U.S. and Europe is to the Middle East. And you see shows about it, but they never point out the men tricking young girls to do this are almost exclusively Islamicists. Why don't they talk about the slave trade in Libya now and how women are being sold on slave auctions and men? CNN won't say it's Islamic. Imagine if Christians were doing something like this. You'd never hear the end of it. So Paul Watson's going to host this hour and a little bit into the war room, 15 minutes or so, with Owen Schroyer, because I promised to go to your calls. Carlos, Marcos, Brian, Scott, J.K., Sam. But when I go to you, bam, 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 1 minute apiece, because Paul Watson is obviously a very popular talk show host and Infowars.com editor over in the UK, doing a great job for us with his brother Steve Watson, with his background in international relations and politics. So they're doing a great job, and I want to be able to hear from Paul Watson and go eat my lunch and then have a business meeting that I got a bunch of people lined up to do. So I'm going to be out of here very, very quickly so Paul can take over. But Paul, I got to say, at next level, my friend, to see the biggest paper in London come out with a pedophilia, sex with children manual, complete with kids playing with themselves and little girls having orgasms. I mean, I don't want to be gross here. I mean, including body fluids. I mean, this is just the most insane stuff. I've never even seen stuff like this myself as an adult. This is the first time I've seen images, though it's cartoons, but very realistic, of young girls and young boys. I mean, I felt assaulted when I went to the article and suddenly started scrolling through it. They have taken the article down, but we're told there's a mirror of it. Paul, what on earth do you make of this? The story's up on Infowars.com. The Daily Caller has also reported on it.
Well, I mean, this is the Metro. It's complete degenerate filth. It's like the UK version of BuzzFeed. And it's all about pushing this agenda, which is to dehumanize children by sexualizing them. You know, you've got transgenderism being taught not just in the UK, but in America. They get up and teach now as young as 2-year-old kids in the UK who can barely even speak. They're teaching them about transgenderism. They read the books out. In one case, there was a case in California where they started reading a book to this classroom of, toddlers, basically. And they went home absolutely petrified that they would turn into a boy if they were a girl and vice versa. So they're terrifying these toddlers, these young children, who don't even understand sexuality full stop. So why would you introduce that? Why would you introduce sex toys? They had a Vice Media video, Alex, back a few months ago on YouTube. And they literally had like the 6-year-old little girls showing them dildos and how to use dildos. Meanwhile,
and by the way, it's everywhere. It's everywhere. It's everywhere. It's a total rollout everywhere. Here in Austin, they had drag queens with little kids giving them dollars as men spread their legs in front of little kids. And people go, oh, why are you against drag queens? Well, I'm not against drag queens if they're doing it on their own. Don't do it with kids, whoever you are. This is literally mainlining pedophilia.
Yeah, meantime, actual pedophiles are exploiting YouTube for years. Nobody even notices. You've got Salon.com, Vice Media, all these other publications giving a platform to an admitted child molester, Todd Nickerson, who said that if a child initiated sex play with him, he would go for it. He would go along with it. It's not as if he was like, oh, I would never do anything. He admitted he would go for it.
So obviously they're rolling it out. Turkey's announcing legalization of 9-year-old girls. The New York Times says pedophilia is okay. Clearly, they're coming out with their agenda this year.
But the real threat, Alex, is Thomas the Tank Engine. Remember, just before Christmas, CNN put out an article saying that Paw Patrol, this kid's cartoon, and Thomas the Tank Engine were, quote, fascist cartoons because they reinforced stereotypical gender roles. They are like the gender roles that 99.9% of people still live by, that work, are successful in helping people build happy, healthy lives. No, we can't have that. A children's cartoon that's been around for decades is fascist. Oh, but they can play with dildos. That's progressive. Absolutely back to front world, Alex. It needs to be called out over and over again. And that's the challenge that we have, because they're just going to keep intensifying this. We always need to stay on the offensive, not get bored of it, continue to slam it for the degenerate crap that it is.
Incredible, Paul. Absolutely amazing. And meanwhile, this all dovetails together. A new article from Kit Daniels on Infowars.com. Germany to censor media in upcoming Nazi-style purge. They've hired the former Stasi to carry it out. No criticism of Islam, no criticism of sexualizing children. It's just amazing. And that then ties into Pope Francis saying opponents of mass migration sow violence, racial discrimination, and xenophobia. Thought that's what radical Islam does. German political leader under police investigation over tweets about Muslim rape gangs. California prosecutes man for criticizing Muslims on Facebook. They've also passed a law that if you don't say somebody's proper pronoun, you can be arrested. And meanwhile, the National Health Service, a nurse is in trouble because a man with tattoos and stubble came in and said, do a pap smear on my cervix. He was a man with male genitals. She said, you are a man. And she, for not being completely mentally ill, is now the bad person. This is a total takeover by the Tavistock Institute that admits their plan since the 60s to literally end the family as we know it, creating mass mental illness. Total psych warfare, Paul.
That's exactly what it is. It's about upturning everything that's worked for civilization, for humanity, in recent history, so they can build it from the start again. We've got London Met Police now being told they can't investigate actual crimes like theft, but they can go after hate crimes. Alex, we got like 3,000 people in the UK arrested every single year for mean tweets. The police numbers are collapsing. They're having to beg retired police officers to come back to work. The funding's through the floor. Oh, but if you write a mean comment on Facebook about Islam, they'll bang on your door. They've actually had like apartments ransacked with people who
they have raids. They have raids
and comments on Facebook.
And then meanwhile, it's all confirmed. Thousands of young girls as young as 5 in towns groomed and raped by Muslims, but then the police won't investigate because it's politically incorrect.
Yeah, and they had one of the police chiefs of the Met Police come out and say, oh, large numbers of men have been grooming and raping girls for decades. This is nothing new. Yes, it is new. It's new in every single town in which it happened, because it only happened after we imported this rape culture, where you now see in Turkey, they're saying, oh, this is the religious state institution, as you mentioned earlier. Sex with 9-year-old girls getting pregnant is now sanctioned basically under this fatwa, under this Islamic interpretation of basically Sharia law in Turkey. That's what we're importing. So obviously the establishment in the West can't tackle this head on. They don't arrest anyone for female genital mutilation in the UK, so they just bathe us in it, and we have to accept it. We can't
basically, those of us that are tolerant are having it used
against, and that's literally the worst thing on the planet to be, Alex. So we can't deal with little girls having their genitals cut off.
Well, yeah, absolutely. Carlos in Canada, real quick. Thanks for holding. You're on the air. I want to talk about Trump's tax plan.
Thank you very much, Alex. Happy New Year. I just want to reassure your listeners that with regards to the cuts in taxes and China's reaction to it. Number one, I had the opportunity in 1981, to meet Professor Arthur Laffer, and he explained at the time that when you increase taxes, for a while, you get revenue, of course, because people pay the taxes. But when you get to a point, which you call point D, people no longer want to pay taxes. And then you increase the taxes further. What happens is that you have tax evasion, and people and companies and so on organize not to pay taxes. So theoretically, what President Trump has done and was done by President at the time of Arthur Laffer, he basically guarantees that more revenue will come in because of the reduction in taxes. Now, that is a theoretical formulation, but it works.
Well, absolutely. That it stimulates the economy. People have more of their money. They hire more. They have optimism. You're absolutely right. Sorry to have you hold that long to tell us that, but it's key information. You're absolutely right, Carlos. Paul Joseph Watson, straight ahead, Infowars.com. Free shipping's about to have to end store-wide, and your purchases are vital to fund our operation. We've got a lot of great products. Please check them out today.
We're live. Here's the fourth hour of the Alex Jones Show on the second day of January 2018. Has anybody gotten used to saying that yet? Well, we know what happened in Cologne on New Year's Eve 2015 going into 2016. Obviously, we've talked about it many times. It was the mass molestation of women by almost exclusively North African migrants. Well, it happened again, not to the same scale, thankfully, but again in numerous cities in Germany on New Year's Eve 2017. Going into 2018, this is out of RT. Several arrested in Berlin, Cologne over suspected sexual assault during New Year's Eve celebrations. Police have arrested several people in Berlin and Cologne over suspected sexual assault against women during New Year's Eve celebrations, police and media say. Most of the suspects were young men from, you guessed it, Syria and Afghanistan, those bastions of respect for women's rights. At least 7 people were arrested for sexual assault in the German capital, Berlin, police said. As cited by Die Welt newspaper, the incidents took place during a New Year's Eve festival at Berlin's Brandenburg Gate area, which drew hundreds of thousands of spectators. And, of course, as we told you on Thursday and Friday, they had a safe zone in Berlin where women could be assured to be protected from sexual assault. Well, imagine my shock. The safe zone didn't work because you can't have a safe zone staffed by, a couple of dozen people stop hundreds of men who are bathed in a rape culture and have brought that rape culture with them to Europe. But we need to just act like the feminists in Cologne when it happened the first time. The very next day, they visited the migrant center, not to protest for women's right to feel safe on the street without being molested or raped. No, they protested in favor of the migrants and handed out roses to them. Just as the same feminists today who wore pussy hats and marched against Trump during the Women's March have absolutely zip, nada, zilch to say about the brave women in Iran who are discarding their veils, just like the original feminist Muslim groups did in the Middle East 100 years ago. Absolutely nothing to say about it. Nobody's donned a pussy hat to support them because, of course, we've embraced the hijab as a tolerant symbol of feminism, despite the fact that it's an actual symbol of hatred against women in the Islamic world. It's part of the modesty culture that oppresses women, part of the same culture that legitimizes a rape culture such as we saw in Tahrir Square, Egypt, with the rape of several reporters there, which was caught on film, absolutely harrowing footage. They have a name for it. It's called Taharush Gamia, the rape game, and they've imported it into Europe, and no feminist has a damn word to say about it. So it happened yet again in these different German cities on New Year's Eve. Meanwhile, what's Germany more concerned about? What's caused more controversy in Germany than women being molested on the streets of major cities? Yet again, what's caused more controversy? Well, a German politician said a mean thing on Facebook and Twitter, and that's what we need to be worrying about, isn't it? German political leader under police investigation over tweets about Muslim rape gangs. A member of the far-right German political party, AfD, which is the third biggest party in Germany, is being investigated over an incendiary New Year's Eve tweet that cast Muslims as violent and rapacious. Beatrix von Storch, member of the German parliament and deputy leader of Germany's far-right AfD party, accused the Cologne police of pandering to barbaric, this is her words, not mine, to prevent my door getting bashed down by the thought police, quote, barbaric, gang-raping Muslim hordes of men after the department sent out a celebratory tweet in Arabic to ring in the new year. Not the words I would have used, but again, the point is they're more concerned about this. There's more controversy over this than the actual sexual assault and molestation of women. Van Storch's Twitter account was suspended for 12 hours Monday, saying her message violated their rules. But you can, call for white genocide, kill all men, and 37 things white people are going to ruin in 2018. You'll be celebrated. You won't be banned. The police are now investigating whether von Storch's tweet constitutes incitement to hatred, a criminal charge under Germany's hate speech laws, which were recently amended to impose fines on social media companies that do not remove, quote, obviously illegal content. Which brings us on to this article. Germany starts enforcing hate speech law, BBC News. Germany is set to start enforcing a law that demands social media sites move quickly to remove hate speech, fake news, and illegal material. Because when Facebook tried to remove fake news with this flagging software that flagged up if they thought a story was fake news, it actually made a ton more people click on the link to the story. So that was a complete failure. We've exposed how fake news benefited Hillary Clinton. The Stanford University study found that fake news had no impact on the election, and if it did, the top fake news stories were all in favor of Hillary Clinton. But they floated that entire narrative, didn't they, for months after the election as another excuse for why they got their butts handed to them. So now Germany's enforcing this hate speech law where they're going to threaten, this is law as of today, this is law. Facebook, Twitter, and the rest face fines of up to 50 million euros if they don't remove, quote, obvious illegal posts within 24 hours. Imagine the volume of posts for an entire country over the course of 24 hours, and Facebook or Twitter has to remove them within 24 hours. Of course, it's completely unenforceable. This is a complete scam. It's going to be selectively enforced. But again, it's going to be for mild criticism of immigration policies. We've had cases where people have had their Facebook accounts completely wiped and suspended for saying that they disagree with their country's migrant policy. Just in those milquetoast words, Facebook account gone. So this is the situation in Germany. I can't tell you how many times I get tweets. I get emails from Twitter where it says it could be illegal in France and Germany. You know, it's like a video of a refugee boat, and it's all men, no women or children. Just a video, not even a comment on it. This could be illegal in France, or pointing out the truth could be illegal in France or Germany because they're now police states. This has been removed. They remove it in certain countries. They remove YouTube videos in certain countries. Now we're going to get onto that. But now 50 million euro fine for criticizing the religion of peace in Germany. Meanwhile, Jordan Peterson's response to racism accusations censored on YouTube. You can't defend yourself against the relentless accusation that you're a racist on YouTube, otherwise you will be suspended. Jordan Peterson, the free speech advocate and University of Toronto psychology professor, who enraged social justice warriors for his refusal to use made-up gender pronouns, has been censored on YouTube in apparent compliance with European Union laws against hate speech. So they basically deleted his entire video. You can't watch it in all these different major European countries. In the video, Peterson denies being a white supremacist and a member of the alt-right. Anyone who's listened to him for 10 minutes knows that anyway, unless they're complete idiots. He's a professor. He's a civic nationalist, if anything. The accusations were made by progressives. Again, this mass army of outrage mobs that just flag content. And because YouTube, their flagging system is so fundamentally broken and has been for years, it just immediately takes the video down. So basically, this video, he defended himself against being called a rapist on a major podcast, H3H3 podcast, which has millions of listeners. No, the video is gone, and we're going to explain why that is so hypocritical, why it's such a double standard in terms of YouTube on the other side. This is the Alex Jones Show Live. Breaking news at Infowars.com. Don't go away. So we were talking about before the break, Jordan Peterson, the professor in Canada. He did an interview with H3H3 podcast, which is a huge channel. Obviously going to have millions of views of listeners cumulatively over the course of, when people listen to this podcast. So he goes on there, he defends himself against the charge. I'll read out what they asked him. Quote, people associate you with pandering to white supremacists or worse. I've even seen the suggestion that you're a white supremacist yourself. How do you feel about that? That's what he was asked by the host. He responded, quote, I have 260 videos on YouTube, which must total at least 600 hours. By now, people have been over them essentially with a fine-tooth comb. Virtually everything I've said to my students in the last 25 years is on video. And so if there's anything in there that is remotely associated with that, it would come out, said Peterson. So he went on to explain how he teaches his students the horrors of the Holocaust, the horrors of what happened in the Soviet Union, basically just defends himself against a ludicrous charge that he's a white supremacist. And for that, the video was censored in a bunch of different European countries, including the United Kingdom. Now, isn't it interesting how YouTube enacts its censorship policies, how YouTube enforces its own rules on hate speech on graphic content? Because, of course, over the past 24 hours, we've had this huge scandal with Logan Paul, who is basically an ADHD imbecile who just basically idiocracy on steroids. He uploads a video where he walks into a forest in Japan, discovers a dead body, starts laughing about it. This is a victim of suicide, hanged from a tree, starts laughing about it, zooms in on the dead body, uploads it to YouTube. It gets 6 million views within about an hour. Lo and behold, it gets on YouTube's trending page. Now, YouTube's trending page is curated. They decide who gets on there. They decided this video of him laughing at a dead suicide victim hung from a tree, that's what gets on trending. That's family friendly. That's advertiser friendly. In fact, it was Logan Paul himself who removed the YouTube video. It wasn't YouTube who removed it. They left it up. And in fact, somebody's got a screenshot. It was reported, mass reported by users of YouTube. They manually reviewed the video, seeing that it had a dead body in it, zooming in on the dead body, laughing about this suicide victim. YouTube manually reviewed the video and didn't take it down. Again, it was Logan Paul who was forced to take the video down after apologizing, after this huge wave of outrage, which again, some people have misconstrued and said, oh, those precious snowflakes offended again. Well, no, this is a completely different context. He wasn't censored. He wasn't causing outrage because of his political views. He was causing outrage because he laughed at a dead body. That's why people were upset about it, and you can see why they were. But YouTube did not take it down, despite it being a direct violation of their own policies, which state you can't post violent or gory content that's posted in a shocking, sensational, or disrespectful manner, which obviously fit all those different categories. So they decided to leave it up after manually reviewing the video. Meanwhile, Jordan Peterson, his video gets censored in like 24 different European countries because he's defending himself against the charge that he's a white supremacist. This is the double standard with YouTube, which we saw after the Las Vegas massacre. Remember when Casey Neistat, who's another big YouTuber, tried to raise money for the victims of the Las Vegas massacre? YouTube removed ads from his video, so he couldn't make any money off it, to give to the victims as a charitable donation, because they said you can't make money out of tragedies. Unless you're Jimmy Kimmel, who ranted about gun control, exploiting this very same massacre. Did they remove ads from his video? No, they were on the whole time. Not only did they not remove ads, they put him up on #1 on the trending page, which again is curated, decided by them. It's not organic. So this is the point we've made over and over again. There is a VIP tier of YouTube users who can say anything, who can do anything, who can violate YouTube's policies wantonly, on a whim, and face absolutely no consequences whatsoever. But if I have an opinion about Islam or whatever, you've seen it. My video gets chopped down. It gets put behind a Berlin Wall, basically. You have to appeal simply to get it back online for people to watch it. So incredible double standards with YouTube. You know, you had PewDiePie making some edgy jokes. He gets internationally vilified. This guy can zoom in and laugh about a dead body. YouTube doesn't even remove the video. Remember the rapper? We covered, in fact, I made a video about it. You had a rapper who came out and did a rap video in which he featured a white child being hung by himself and this other black child. Again, not even age restricted. Meanwhile, I make a video about modern art saying modern art is crap. Age restricted, completely kills its ability to go super viral. And there you see racial justice rap video depicts white child being hanged. So you can depict the hanging of children. You can actually show a suicide victim who's hanged himself and zoom in on the body and laugh about it if you're Logan Paul. Or you can rant about gun control and exploit a massacre like Jimmy Kimmel if you're the host of a big TV chat show. It's one rule for them and another rule for everybody else. There is this VIP tier on YouTube, which they won't admit to, which is so obviously in existence, and they're trying to hide it. Meanwhile, the algorithm, it came out as well a couple of months ago that YouTube's own algorithm deliberately demotes any content that's not far left. So obviously, people are being punished for their political views and opinions on YouTube. There's another tier for VIP elite content creators who can do anything they want, get away with it with no consequences whatsoever. So again, everyone else is punished for their thought crime of having the wrong politics, but Logan Paul can film a dead body and laugh about it, and YouTube will put it on their trending page, and 6 million people see it within an hour, and it only disappears when he decides to take it down after the mass outrage campaign. Which, again, some people on the right have mischaracterized. They weren't outraged about anything political. It was the fact that he was laughing about a dead body. Absolutely incredible double standard by YouTube. Jordan Peterson's video removed simply because he defended himself against accusations that he was a white supremacist. Incredible. Then we have this, on the subject of social media censorship. California prosecutes man for criticizing Muslims on Facebook. California Attorney General Javier Becerra is attempting to prosecute 41-year-old Mark Fagin for criticizing Muslims on the Islamic Center of Southern California's Facebook page in September 2016. What did he say? He said this, quote, "The terror hike sounds like fun." That was in response to the center's sunset hike announcement. So these are dumb comments, but really should it be prosecuted legally for this, given that you're supposed to have a First Amendment? The more Muslims we allow into America, the more terror we will see. That was another one of his comments. Most people would agree with that, given the statistics on terrorism in Western countries. Another comment, he said, practicing Islam can slow or even reverse the process of human evolution. Again, you could call it a dumb comment, but the First Amendment also covers hate speech, as the Supreme Court has ruled over and over again. But now he's being prosecuted in California simply for responding to posts on Facebook. So again, all these people who make this argument, oh, Facebook's a private company, YouTube's a private company, Twitter's a private company, they can do what they want. No, you have an intersection of social media giants with the state, with government, with police forces, where they're now actively acting on these comments, which could be anything from, oh, I disagree with my government's migrant policy, to something that is actually, whatever you want to call it, xenophobic or hateful. But they're working in league with the state, as we saw in Germany with the Stasi, to prosecute people, to hunt them down, to knock on their door. And that's when the argument goes beyond, oh, it's just a private company. No, this is real people's lives being impacted because they said something on Facebook, because they had an opinion about a certain religion, a belief system, or a migration policy. This is genuinely terrifying, and it's only getting worse. We'll be back on the other side of the break to talk about it. This is the Alex Jones Show Live. Breaking news at Infowars.com. Don't go away. Getting back into the news, this is out of Breitbart. Sadiq's London knife crime, gun crime, theft, burglary, rape, homicide, all massively up since he came to power in May 2016. Sadiq Khan has overseen basically a deterioration of the capital of England. That's not even including the terrorist attacks. Now the cacophony caused by the "we're not racist" backslapping has ended. The true implications of Khan mayoralty are being realized. In Britain's capital over the past year, Khan presided over rises in knife crime, gun crime, theft, burglary, rape, homicide, and more. And not just by a little bit either. This article goes through all the stats from the years 2015 to 2016 and 2016 to 2017. Homicides in London rose by 27.1%. Just on New Year's Eve alone, we had 4 different people, in fact, 5 people stabbed, 4 dead on one night in 4 different areas of London alone. There's no outrage over this. There's no protest. Nobody's going to say anything about it. But again, if you leave a mean Islamophobic comment on Facebook, they will come crashing down. Youth homicide jumped 70%. Serious youth violence was up 19%. Robbery was up 33%. While home burglaries rose by 18.7%. That's all since Sadiq Khan, Mr. Part and Parcel, came to power. Then you tie that in with this. Again, another headline out of Breitbart. London's Met Police won't investigate minor crime, only hate crime. London's Metropolitan Police Force will not bother to investigate crimes if officers are required to watch CCTV, which is surveillance footage, for more than 20 minutes or if there is no footage available. The UK's largest force will also drop investigations into thousands of lower-level offences and ignore certain crimes such as vandalism, vehicle crime and fuel theft if damages do not exceed £50. But if you question the sanctity of the religion of peace on Twitter or Facebook, they've got plenty of resources to deal with that, don't worry. We've got 20,000 potential jihadists roaming the streets of the UK. The government admits they can't keep track of them. They don't have the resources to keep track of them, but they've got the resources to come after you if you say something mean about the religion of peace, and don't worry, they will. Meanwhile, you've got, again, massive cuts in police funding. They're having to beg police officers to come out of retirement because there's not enough of them to deal with all this soaring actual crime, but they're arresting 3,000 people a year because they make mean comments on Facebook. Violent crime has been rising dramatically in London and across the UK. According to MPs, parts of the capital are now no-go zones. Those don't exist. It's a conspiracy theory. The media told us 3 years ago no-go zones don't exist, even though police officers, ambulance workers, firemen are being attacked in these no-go zones in many European cities. But between May and July this year, there were 3,755 knife-related crimes and a 27% increase in firearms offences across Britain. And as Alex was talking about earlier, that's not even mentioning the rape gangs. They came out and said, oh, this has been happening for decades. Not really a big deal, is it? Not really a big deal. Like 14 years worth of rape gang activity in Rotherham. You know, what was it? 1,400 girls abused. They covered it up because it was politically incorrect to name the actual culprits. But if you commit a hate crime, they're coming after you, and hard. Meanwhile, rising crime across the city, absolutely incredible. And it's all since Sadiq Khan came to power. And when he came to power, the first thing he did was say he's basically going to stop and search, which allows the police to profile and to stop potential criminals on the street. Now that's basically gone. We've seen a massive rise in violent crime. But, you know, if you leave a comment saying maybe we shouldn't bring in so many migrants, maybe those migrants that literally look 30 years of age or 40 years of age and have stubble and beards aren't children, if you commit that thought crime, then don't worry, they'll be knocking at your door. Absolutely insane. Meanwhile, Snopes debunked on claim New York Times didn't collude with Hillary Clinton. Snopes, the left-wing website that supposedly debunks fake news while being a mouthpiece for the far left, obviously, has itself been debunked after new WikiLeaks emails revealed that the New York Times colluded with Hillary Clinton when she was Secretary of State. So back in October 2016, Snopes attempted to debunk our assertion that the New York Times had colluded with Clinton's campaign by warning them in advance about potentially negative stories that were about to be published. Now, you may remember this story. This came out of the Podesta emails. This email was circulated amongst the Clinton campaign inner staff, and it revealed how, quote, the New York Times, Jonathan Martin and Maggie Haberman, reached out this morning. This is the Clinton campaign speaking here. Reached out this morning to tell us that they are aware of a meeting HRC had with Senator Warren at her house back in December. They plan to write imminently, so wanted everyone to be aware that this could pop soon. So they had the New York Times primary reporters writing to the Clinton campaign, warning them of a negative story that was about to come out in a matter of days. They didn't ask for a comment on that story. They warned them it was about to come out. They weren't asking for a comment. Nowhere in that email does it say that they asked for a comment. So what did Snopes do? A day later, they came out and said, this has been debunked. This is just standard journalistic practice on behalf of the New York Times. They weren't giving the Clinton campaign a heads up. They were just asking for comment on a story they were writing, except they weren't asking for a comment because, you know, they didn't ask for a comment. The email's right there. You can read it for yourself. Oh, but we were debunked. We were fake news for reading an email and explaining to people what it meant. We're fake news. No, they were asking for comment. It was standard journalistic practice, even though they weren't asking for comment. So now we've been vindicated yet again by the revelation that a New York Times reporter used to email Hillary Clinton's State Department days in advance to warn them of stories that were about to be published. And you can look at this email, it's in the article. They literally go through every day of the week, these New York Times national security reporters, and inform Hillary Clinton's State Department about what topic is going to be written about every day, Monday to Sunday, informing them of news items that are going to come out in advance, exactly as they did the Clinton campaign back in October 2016. So again, it proves collusion between the State Department and the New York Times, which of course was then run by Hillary Clinton. It's not standard journalistic practice. They're obviously working with government institutions, with campaigns with whom they're friendly with. So again, this goes to the heart of the truth about Snopes, and boy, I need to make that video at some point. This is not an independent, non-partisan fact checker. It's an organ of the Democratic Party of the far left, posing as independent when every time they're revealed to be an apologist for and to cover up for that same Democratic Party establishment, and particularly Hillary Clinton. So it's Snopes that has been exposed and debunked yet again. This is the Alex Jones Show Live. We will be back after the break. Don't go away.